you doing? How's everybody doing?
Hello. Answers by
Hey, hey,
guest.
hey.
Season 5. Wow. Hello there, guest.
Hi. How we doing?
Hi. Good, sir. How are you?
Good. Two guys in the basement back for the fifth year.
Oh,
We
yeah.
got anybody
Excited.
watching?
We do.
We're still waiting.
We got a
Ooh.
few viewers
Hi.
here already.
Who's here? Who's here?
Say hello,
So
guys. Say hello.
if it's your first time watching, we were just two guys in the basement that we talk fantasy and we try and do something that's different than what everybody else does. We don't talk about the same players that you hear nonstop in the news or on television or the radio or any other podcast. And we're pretty damn good at it. And I don't mind tooting our own horns because we got some good calls that nobody ever sees coming. First thing that I guess I could mention to that, last year, right around this time, we'll rewind about 49 weeks. Everybody's talking about Divina Zigbo and the other dude for Jacksonville. And I'm telling everybody you should pick up James Robinson. How'd
Good
that
call on
turn
that
out?
one. Oh,
How'd
yeah.
that turn out? And if you're here for the first time, hopefully you join the group, like the page, do whatever you got to do so that you're here every Sunday morning and Tuesday evening for our two shows that we do weekly. And we'll get you in that championship circle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I hope
Remember
everybody's.
that link there, guys. Just go on to the page. You can go right to the groups. It's right in there. Definitely looking forward, man, to this season. You definitely, hopefully, a lot of good calls again, and just want to see what it kind of brings. It's definitely going to be a little bit different. Obviously, not going through as much COVID, or hopefully don't have to go through COVID again, and kind of seeing where the season can progress with preseason and already having a game or a preseason game under their belts.
Who's that other bum for Jacksonville that they were telling people to pick up? I don't even remember his name now.
I, did he have Zigbo was the one that ended up on the COVID list that just like never came off the COVID list, right?
Yeah, and then there was another dude who was the number two, but I knew he wasn't any good, and I knew James Robinson was. Um, I don't know. And Michael, your homeboy there, Darko, I don't know if he's watching. He laughed at me when I said James Robinson. I'll never let that down. We do have to do before we get into our rundown or preseason rundown, kind of what we've been doing annually now, just sort of going through each team really quickly. We got to do two randoms for leagues. We got to do it for our main league, and then we got to do it for our answers by guess inaugural league. So we know our draft order. So we're going to use random.org. We're going to put the names on a list, and Rob's just going to random them once. And wherever your name ends up, 1 through 14, for the Answers by Guest League, if your name ends up at 1, you're pick 1, all the way down to 14. One time, boom. Typically, we would draw out of a hat, but this is 2021.5, so I figure we might as well get with the times. And for the other league, in case anybody's watching that's in Fantasize Me, we're just going to do 1 through 13 because somebody won the consolation game last year. And what we do for the consolation game to keep everybody playing so that nobody drops or gives up or any of that, you play for seventh place, and seventh place gets to pick which spot. Somebody chose pick 1. So when we go 1 through 13, pick number 1 or spot number 1 will be pick number 2, so on and so forth.
Correct.
This is all recorded.
Yes.
No crying.
Which league do you want to do first?
Let's do Fantasize Me first, and just make sure you copy and paste it so you can email it to me later, por favor. And then we'll save the anticipation for the Answers by Guest League and do that second.
All right, so let me share my screen here. All right, I got my list here. This is for the Fantasize Me. Let's see how it looks. Can you see the names?
I can.
All right, so these are all the names in that league. Again, this is 13 names, as Guest just said. So, all right, here goes a random. All right, and this is what it's going to look like. So let me copy this.
So BC, if you're watching, you're pick 2. Chad, you're pick 3, etc., etc., etc.
All right.
All right, here we go, boys.
We'll do the ABG League, which I can't wait for, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be really cool.
Definitely. Give us something extra special to talk about each week.
Oh, yes. All right, so going back, changing the names now.
Here we go.
So that's everybody, Robin guests. Again, this is 14 names. And here is part 2. Here, randomize. Look at that. Darko getting pick 1. And Michael, holy moly.
Am I at the end? Are we at the end?
We are. We got 13.
Not bad. I kind of like that.
Okay with that. I like that. 13 and 15. I'll take it.
16, right?
Oh, 16. My bad. Yes.
Nice.
My math is a little off. All right. So I'm going to save this. That has the orders.
Share that in the chat maybe as well, or I'll do that later.
I could probably do that. Let's see if it'll let me.
I can do that later. We'll get to the meat and potatoes. Had enough salad.
All right. So that was the random for the leagues.
Oh, I wasn't talking about this chat, but yeah, you can put it in that chat. I was talking about the PM, the group PM.
I will. Well, I have it still, and I will.
Word up.
All right, guys. So it's going to be an interesting season. Definitely, if this continues to grow, if people like it, hopefully maybe we can create another league and keep on kind of going from there. Even guess maybe splitting up with one, and I'll do another one, and
we'll see how the way I look at it is, my hope is that everybody continues to play. But we know what happens. I mean, just in our main league, Fantasize, we had 4 guys drop out this year. There's a league we've been doing for 16 years. 4 guys dropped out, had to fill the spots. So it'll happen. If that happens and you're somebody that didn't get in this year and you want to get in, there will be a spot very likely for you, first come, first serve. But if we can't fill it, then yeah, we'll have to split. Darko and Michael have to split. All right, Roberto.
Are you ready, sir?
Yeah, let's talk football.
NFC West is who I had on my list. We're going to do it by division.
Okay.
First team up, the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
So the whole Russell Wilson situation seemed like it was like, holy moly, he wants out. What the hell are we going to do? And then all of a sudden they play nice again and he's back on the field. It had me nervous, to be honest with you, because I think that obviously drops the value if Geno Smith is your quarterback compared to Russell Wilson. So let's talk about that situation, how you think he's going to go with DK Metcalf another year in. Again, he has his favorite Tyler Lockett that he seems to go to a lot. This kid Eskridge is somebody that's been coming up on the board. Anybody else we should be looking at? I know you don't like Chris Carson, but is he a viable option at where he's being drafted at nowadays? And a big move for me, I see for them, is Gerald Everett at tight end. How do you feel about that?
Just to preface this entire show, this is something that I've been wanting to bring up, so I don't want to forget. Last year, I went ahead and did something in our Fantasize Me League draft. My first 4 picks. You remember what my first 4 picks were in last year's draft? Well, you remember?
Like 4. Yeah, I do. Want me to say it?
Sure.
4 wide receivers in a row.
4 wide receivers in a row, round 1, 2, 3, and 4. And all I hear, and I had the best team, best record. Got.
Who won that championship again?
You did. You did. I'm not going to take anything away from you, but if I didn't barely lose the semis because Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs blew up, I would have beat you in the championship. But that's beyond the point. Congratulations, Rob. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And that would have been back-to-back for me, but that's neither here nor there. You are the man. I will bow down to you. But all I hear on the radio and things I read, podcasts, television, what's everybody suggesting people do this year? Do you know? What, like the big consensus, the big talking point. It was this talking point a few years ago as well, but this year everybody's saying zero RB.
Oh yeah,
That's what
you're right. I have seen that.
everybody's talking about. I did that last year. That was my plan last year. This is what Answers by Guest does. We're ahead of the curve. We're thinking outside the box. We're ahead of the game. And that's what anybody that's watched us for 4 seasons in a row, we're telling people, you want to know about these guys before everybody else knows about these guys, right? You want to have them on your watch list or even on your roster before anybody even thinks about, putting them on their roster. Because once everybody else knows, it's too late. It's not happening. So everybody's suggesting, anybody who's anybody, we're just two guys in the basement. Anybody who's anybody, they're suggesting you go zero RB. They're telling you, grab the wide receivers, grab the tight ends, etc. early. And I kind of feel like that's going to bite a lot of people in the butt this year. You brought up Chris Carson. You know how I feel about Chris Carson. Who's back and healthy and slim, and they've been dying to get him on the field. If this dude stays healthy, Chris Carson's going to be a thing of the past. It's Rashad Penny.
Yeah, definitely.
It's Rashad Penny. Let people, if you are following the zero RB recommendations that everybody is giving this year, when we told you, kind of pointed out that that's what the route I went last year. Let somebody else take Chris Carson, because even if it falls to like round 5, because I think it's going to be Rashad Penny. I know we feel like we see this every year. He's just got to stay healthy. He's skinny now. I mean, comparatively speaking, lost a ton of weight, put on some muscle instead. Rashad Penny, I think, takes that job. If he stays healthy, we know Pete Carroll doesn't like Chris Carson. You nailed it on the head with Everett. He's definitely somebody to look at. And that's pretty much, Eskridge as well. The wide receivers will be fine. This team has made a shift over the past couple of years. Let Russ cook, is the theme. And they're better when they're doing that. So I think the wide receivers will be fine. What's up, Chad? So I think we can move on. Rashad Penny's who you want to target on that team late, because I think he's going to be a steal and nobody's going to take him unless they're watching this show.
Yeah, man. DJ Dallas, they're talking him up a little bit too. So you're right. Chris Carson may be a thing of the past, especially if these guys can get going. What's funny is that, Carroll, he loves to kind of cycle through running backs. He's always had this thing about Chris Carson, so on and so forth. They still have Alex Collins. They still have that kid Homer. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just a rotating.
That's
it's like,
the thing.
Who's getting the hot hand this week?
That's the thing. That's what I was going to say. It's like when they run the ball, there's so many of them there. Penny's the most talented. If he's healthy, Carson, you're overpaying for Carson this year. Let him go.
All right, let's go on to the next team here. Los Angeles Rams. Big move. Obviously, getting Matt Stafford. Is that an upgrade from Jared Goff? In my opinion, I believe yes, but he has to get a relationship with these wide receivers, in which Goff kind of had. But again, you got some big names here. Everyone's still so high on Deshaun Jackson going there. I don't know. I think he's a little past his prime, but
Watson.
somebody I'm sorry.
You're talking about Deshaun Jackson going there?
Yeah, it's on the Rams now. It doesn't make a difference in my opinion. But Van Jefferson is somebody that I know I'm looking at. Obviously, the huge loss of Akers. So what is that backfield going to look like? I see 3 names being picked up. I have one of the names, but it's the older one of the names. So what are the other 2? Let's talk about that. And now that Higbee's by himself, does that give him a boost as far as from a tight end perspective?
Well, start with him. Higbee by himself, sure, if he could stay healthy. That's been his biggest issue, because every time, he would be splitting with Everett. That's why we didn't like Higbee or Everett too much last year. And then as soon as Higbee got hurt, Everett got the full share. He had a big game. Everett got hurt. Higbee had a big game. We told people to lay off at Higbee last year. Don't follow the end of 2 years ago. Some people fell into that trap. They did draft a rookie, so I'd imagine they'll still run 2 out there. As far as the running backs goes, Henderson's the name. He jumped, obviously, is going to be the starter. Would not be surprised if out of those three names, the one that emerges, the three names that you mentioned, is Jake Funk. Rookie, little white dude, adversity type of dude, like the hell is his name? Danny Woodhead, picture that type of thing. So I I would keep his name pinned somewhere and just watch and see what Jake Funk does this summer because that's what I'm doing. Van Jefferson, you nailed it. The only thing I worry about this team is Cooper Cup because Stafford, yeah, you could say he did a little bit here and there with Amendola, but Stafford's not really that type of guy. So I think Robert Woods and probably the Van Jefferson are going to benefit more. I still like Cooper Cup. If you get him as your number two or number three would be great, but he's being drafted as a number two. And I just worry that that's not really Stafford's game. Stafford also is not really a tight end guy. So unless they mold the offense and try and fit him into it, um, Higby's going to get overdrafted there as well. So just be careful. And that when we get to Detroit, Goff liked his tight ends, and you know who Detroit's tight end is, and you know my history with him. He's already high on the boards, anyways. But
Yeah.
that's how I feel about the Rams. Van Jefferson late, if you could steal him, I'd wait a little bit on Cup. Woods is still solid, and Jake Funk was a guy I'd look at late for some RB depth. Just see what he does this summer.
The other name was Xavier Jones, somebody to pay attention to between him and Funk. Henderson has injury history, so
Mm-hmm.
that's always something to pay attention to. He doesn't seem to get through a full season, and it's usually multiple games at a time. One thing I will point out about the tight end situation is that Stafford did want to go to Stone for hands, but since he was Stone for hands, he wasn't relying on him so much. So I don't know if
This
I
is
would
true.
downplay the Higby thing so much, but again, it's not his normal game that he usually goes to.
This is
All
true.
right.
Michael had a question down there. I don't think so. I think they made it very vocal that they don't think he is a starting running back. I think they said that last week or so. I
That
don't think
relationship
they're
didn't
bringing him
end
back.
very well either.
No, no,
So I agree with
no,
that.
no.
All right. Next one up, the Arizona Cardinals. Very interesting situation here. So you have Kyler Murray going into his third year now. He had his feet wet, second year with Hopkins. The run game is what worries me in this team. Edmonds is the guy. They obviously picked up James Conner as well, who's already hurt or seems to be ailing, which
Of
doesn't
course,
surprise me.
of course.
But I think the thing that I have the biggest question on is Christian Kirk for draft value wise, and him technically still kind of being the number two over there. He did have some injuries and so on and so forth, but he did come back a little stronger towards the end of the season. Is that somebody we should be looking at almost as a wide receiver three? And tell us what you think about the running situation and so on and so forth.
Yeah, Kyler's that dude. We've had a couple conversations on the page. People wondering between Kyler and Lamar. I think Lamar bounced back pretty well this year, but I think I'd still go Kyler over Lamar. He's just got so many weapons. He's so much faster. He stays healthier. He's a little more slick in the holes and whatnot. Um, as far as Chase Edmonds, whenever he's had the job, he's done amazing. Like when Drake was hurt or when David Johnson was hurt, like he was fine. He was great. You mentioned James Conner. I'm not touching him at all. If I could in the draft room, I would just delete him right off. I'd be more interested if I'm looking for a late round stash, Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
He's somebody who was a rookie last year. Never really got much burn, but he's somebody who I'd look at more. Now they did say something about Connor being like the 4 minute back or something, but dude can't stay healthy for 4 minutes. So I don't want James Conner. You know how I feel about him. We can go to the next team. This team, there's so many wide receivers. I mean, it's Kirk. Nobody wants me to talk about Hopkins. You hear that all day long. AJ Green, come on now.
Yeah, and so many. What's funny is that AJ Green. I've seen a lot of people, especially the groups that I'm in, is AJ Green's going to have a comeback year, and you know what? If he does, go for it.
More.
I agree. I think that something is going to be better than nothing. But that did he say? Did somebody say more? I didn't
Yeah.
look at the guy. Yeah, Moore is looking like
Right. Yeah.
I don't even think AJ Green's going to hit the field.
No. But this is the problem. You got a rookie, Rondale Moore is fine, and you could probably get him, I don't know, 8 to 10, somewhere in there, depending on the size of your league. Hopkins, we mentioned. I don't want AJ Green. Christian Kirk, you never know if he's going to play, and if he does play, you never know if he's going to show up. Isabella, we talked about him at nauseum, just waiting for him to get. They just have so many wide receivers, and they play them all, and we're not even naming 4 of them.
Yeah.
So it's like if it's not Hopkins and if it's not Moore really late, I probably would be okay with none of them. They do have, and his name slips my mind. Shoot, I can't remember. But they drafted a rookie tight end. I don't know if you could pull
Max
that
Williams?
up. No, a rookie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Max Williams is the old bum from the
yeah,
Ravens.
no.
I can't think of his
Daniels?
name. I don't think so. I got his rookie card over here. I could look at it in a second. But they have never really had a good tight end, but this guy's killing. I think he played at Stanford, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, keep an eye on their rookie tight end. I'll get his name in a second.
The only other name I have is Ross Travis.
No, I just got him the other day.
All right.
We'll go to the next team. I'll pull it up later. I'll type it on the page. But just keep in mind, because tight end, everybody wants the first 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And of course, but if you don't get them, you might as well take a few darts. You know what I mean? And you got a rookie tight end that's better than Max Williams. I mean, Rob, you might be better than Max Williams. So. Yeah.
No, I have no talent at all. All right, next team here, San Francisco 49ers. All right. Obviously, the QB situation. They drafted Trey Lance. That's going to be their future. But from what I'm hearing from camp, Jimmy G's looking pretty damn good. He knows his job's on the line, and he seems to be putting it into another gear. Obviously, Mostert's still there, but they drafted Trey Sermon too. How does that kind of work out? They have a ton of running backs again, and we know the situation. It's going to be, I think, like this, just clockwork. I'm looking at the first 4 names on my depth chart here. Mostert, Sermon, Goldman, Jeff Wilson Jr. is still there. They still got Juszczyk, that kid JaMychal Hasty, who showed something a little bit last year as well. It's like, holy moly. But
yeah, too many.
Somebody that I'm interested in is Brandon Ayuk. I think him taking his second year, he looked pretty good. He's a very Deebo Samuel type. But do they need 2 Deebo Samuels? What do you think?
Deebo has a hard time staying healthy. I'll tell you one thing. You didn't even mention Eli Mitchell. It's another rookie running back that they drafted. They just have too many. And Mostert, he had the huge 4-touchdown game against my Packers. He's had other good splashes. He gets hurt a ton. They got all these running backs. At one point or another, you're going to see him. We said pick up JaMychal Hasty instead of whoever last year. He came in the game. He had a good game. We said take Jeff Wilson Jr. over. I don't even remember who we were saying. Jeff Wilson Jr. had a good game. So it's like I feel like it's always going to be the guy that nobody else thinks it's going to be. So just be careful with your 49ers running backs. I'm not going to touch any of them unless it's like the 5th or 6th running back on my team. And I just want to grab them and have them just in case. You mentioned the wide receivers. I'm telling you right now, this dude that nobody's talking about that a couple years ago was drafted, and Chad didn't even put him down there. He has not been healthy. But do yourself a Google search, because I've just been waiting. I had him on a dynasty team last year. He was supposed to come back, got hurt again. He's supposed to be like 100% health right now. Jalen Hurd. Jalen Hurd was an absolute stud in college. They've been waiting. And this is his 3rd year in the pros. Hasn't played at all. He's a name that I think could pop if he stays healthy. Seems like 49ers got some issues with getting healthy. Wasn't there a point last year where they had like 15 guys that were injured? They had to play a game or something? Right? Thursday night game or something like that, or Monday night game?
Yeah, no, they had too many. Yeah, I think there was didn't they have to bring up people from the practice squad that game or something like that? It was something to that effect.
Oh, something crazy.
But yeah, too many injuries. But if they stay healthy, I mean, you got some decent names there. I mean, like you said, I mean, Chad definitely mentioned a few, but again, that carousel of running backs from a fantasy perspective, they'll win games with it, but they're not going to win you your fantasy games,
right?
At least in my opinion.
Fire the trainers. You're right, Chad.
All right, NFC South. All right, New Orleans Saints is the first one that comes up for me. The QB situation, obviously, Drew Brees retiring. They said it's Taysom Hill, but it could be Jameis Winston if Taysom Hill's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, and so on and so forth. I don't know. I'm staying away from that QB situation, to be honest, but that affects everybody. Obviously, Michael Thomas is out. He seems like he's going to be out for a few weeks. That may be a late stash to look at, especially I'm seeing him going round 9, round 10. I may take a chance and put him on my injured list if you have an IR spot. But who steps up then? I mean, you have a ton of young guys who have potential names. You've heard about them, but who do you think is going to take over that? As far as I think they signed Devontae Freeman or something like that. I don't think Kamara or Latavius Murray lose anything to them. And then as far as tight ends, they got Troutman, that kid. So what are you thinking about how this new Saints, I guess, look and how they'll play?
Well, first week of training camp, it was what's his face? Now his name's slipping my mind. Just mentioned he was starting
Hill?
week 1. Yeah, and then last week with the starters was Winston. So even they don't know. I would think that the only one that's going to have some sort of guaranteed value, no matter what happens, is Hill, because even if Winston starts, Hill's going to be in there. They're going to do the same thing they did with Drew Brees, even if Winston's a starter. Hill's going to be the only one that has guaranteed value, regardless. Do you draft him? Do you play him? Probably not. As far as the Michael Thomas situation, gave you this dude's last name last year. Played well last year. He's stepping up already. If you don't know about him now, even listening to me last year, Marquez Callaway. Told you about him last year. Had him on my team last year in one dynasty league. Kept him because I just had a feeling that he had what it took. And he's the one I'm thinking is going to step up. I'm telling you right now, who's going to get overdrafted is Traquan Smith. He's proven year in, year out, past 3. He's not cut for it. He'll be okay. He'll catch you an occasional deep ball, but I think it's Marquez Callaway. And they got a rookie whose name is slipping my mind as well. He's somebody to keep an eye on. We'll get to his name as well. But Troutman is who I think is going to benefit the most with Winston. Taysom Hill threw to the other Hill and to Cook occasionally, but we know what Taysom Hill does when it's close to the goal line. But I really love Adam Troutman this year. Have him in one dynasty league and trying to get him in another dynasty league. Taysom Hill's not going to be there forever. Winston's not going to be there forever. What did they draft? Ian Book? Is that the guy's name?
Yep.
They're going to groom him. He's got plenty of potential. They're going to groom him throughout this year. I think Troutman is somebody, if you're in a dynasty league, that you should be looking to get if he's on the waiver wire. And if he's not, I would trade for him. Even if he's your second or your third tight end, I think he's a stud, man. He was like the top tight end last year, drafted first or second. And he's somebody who I'm going after. So Troutman and Callaway for this team. And the rookie wide receiver, what's his name?
Let me see.
I guess I should have been more prepared.
It's not Harris, is it?
No, Harris was a rookie last year.
Okay. It's not. Yeah, little Jordan Humphrey was a little. It was. Nope. So Jawan Johnson's the other one that I have on here.
Yep.
That's what you talk about.
We go to the next one. Yep.
All right. Tampa Bay. My love of Tom Brady is not there. He's a funny guy, though. Watching him play against Aaron Rodgers in that golfing tournament, I don't like him as a football player, but his personality is actually pretty funny. Anyways, the situation for the running back, it just seems, again, is it Lenny? Is it Ronald Jones Jr. or Ronald Jones II? They picked up Gio Bernard which is a little bit weird because they have somebody like him in Keyshawn Vaughn. How does that going to cycle through? The wide receivers, Mike Evans is going to be there. Chris Godwin's going to be there. They re-signed Antonio Brown, but they have just a ton of names. Again, the same situation. Their tight ends, O.J. Howard. Obviously Gronk, Cameron Brate. From a fantasy perspective, what Tampa Bay players am I actually looking at knowing I'm going to get production from them?
Yeah, a team of too much nonsense. I love Rojo. I like everything I'm hearing about him. I think it was clear last year that when he got playing time, he was the best of the bunch. Like, yeah, there was a moment or two for Lenny, but I think you're going to see Rojo take it over a little bit more this year. All he's got to do is hold on to the ball. Sometimes the fumbles aren't even his fault, and he gets benched. But he's the best one out of the bunch. He's the youngest, aside from Vaughn. But Vaughn, they're saying, might just be inactive. I'm not going to go after what's his face, Fournette. I almost said LeGarrette Blount. Not going after Gronk. Let somebody else take Gronk. O.J. Howard, if he could be healthy throughout this preseason, he's somebody that obviously will see more playing time. Before he got hurt last year, Brady was looking for him a ton. But then there's also Brady there. I think you'll see Gronk in the goal line mostly, so that goes bad against Howard unless they run 2-3 tight ends. And the wide receivers, you didn't even mention Tyler Johnson. You even mentioned Scotty Mitchell.
I know,
Justin Watson.
Yeah.
I would avoid. I think Mike Evans will be overdrafted this year. People are still going to draft Antonio Brown for no real reason other than name value alone. And Godwin sort of fell off the face of the earth last year. So if there's one that I'm going to take, it's probably Godwin. Because that's how fantasy goes. Rob, can you do it with me? That's it. That's fantasy, boys and girls. And we say it every single year, every single week. It's ebbs and flows. It's the people that didn't do good last year, but were kind of supposed to, that you want this year. So I think that if there's a buy low target, it's Chris Godwin on this team.
Okay. I like it. No, I totally agree with you. Godwin was supposed to be. The finger injury has kind of hurt him a little bit. He was out a week or two, and then he actually played with it, and they were worried. He still got his targets, though. They still looked his way.
Listen, 2 years ago, he blew up. We had told people before that Chris Godwin's going to blow up. He blew up. He was being drafted last year in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to fall to at least the 5th or the 6th this year. I don't care what his ADP says right now. I have no clue. He's going to fall. People are going to avoid him. And that's when you scoop him up as your third, your fourth wide receiver, or your fifth if you grab a bunch early.
I'm just looking real quick. They have him as wide receiver 17.
Okay. So that's probably what, third round?
Yeah, third, fourth round. That's not bad value there, man. You're right, especially if people were taking him in the second. He could have that target share again at least. And Brady spreads the ball around.
Let me guess. Where's Evans? 12, 10?
Evans is wide receiver 13.
He should not be ahead of Godwin. I don't think he should. Not this year. I don't see it. You want to write that down? You want to make a first prediction this season? We do this weekly. I'm going to say Godwin is greater than Evans this year. That's my call. Call number one. Call number one. Call number one.
All right, on to the next team here. Carolina Panthers. Oh, my heart and soul. Sam Darnold. I believe he's going to become something good, man. But we'll see what happens. Christian McCaffrey, hopefully he stays healthy this year. But they did draft Hubbard. What does that mean? Are they worried about his health? That makes me a little nervous, to be honest. He's your number one pick. He's going number one everywhere. He does have value to be number one, but that health issue, you got to think about it. Mike Davis showed up last year for the Panthers when he was out. But on the wide receiver standpoint, DJ Moore had a decent season. Robbie Anderson, they were very similar in the sense of what their production was. But now you throw that kid Marshall Jr. in there. How does that change things as far as the wide receiver standpoint? And you are really high on Ian Thomas. Is he still somebody to be looking at? They got
Probably
Dan
not.
Arnold now from the Cardinals.
Yeah, probably not because Arnold's there. They'll probably split it best. The wide receivers are what they are. We liked Robbie Anderson last year. Never really been a big fan of DJ Moore. Samuel's gone to Washington. They drafted Terrence Marshall, who I think could probably be the best of them all.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Hubbard, Chuba, however you want to say it.
I said Chuba.
Spelled Chuba, probably pronounced Chubba. But, yeah, he's probably going to get some burn. Because like another player that we'll talk about probably soon, they give McCaffrey too much work. So they need to start to spell him. And that was the plan even when he came back last year. Davis was still going to play. Then he got hurt again. They said, well, maybe we'll just play Davis for the rest of this year since we suck anyways. They're going to play Hubbard. They're going to. Chris McCaffrey, number one, you're not getting Chris McCaffrey from 2 years ago. Sorry. You're not. You're just not. And you're also not going to get another player that we'll talk about later, and I'll be sure to reference it when we get to it. But, I mean, it's a couple rookies on this team, and Darnold. But everybody else exactly the same. If you liked Robbie Anderson last year, you grab him. If you were a fan of DJ Moore, good for you. Grab him. I won't. I don't want him. I'd rather have Terrence Marshall. I'd rather have Hubbard late, just as some depth.
All right. Next one here, Atlanta Falcons. Obviously losing their big Julio, him going to the Titans. So that opens up your wide receiver scope. You got Ridley, who had an outstanding season last year. Gage stepped up, but I know you're really not too high on Gage. Tell me who you think is going to be the one that's going to benefit there. A sneaky one that I think that may have some potential. Cordell Patterson's now on this team.
Yeah.
He's that kind of, I'll give you a little bit of everything type of situation. Does he get a lot of burn? Mike Davis, their new running back, he got the contract because of what he did for Carolina. How do you feel about that? And then the number 4 pick, Kyle Pitts. Is he the benefit of Julio not being there?
Yeah. You know, the wide receiver situation is going to be crazy because it's got Gage, like you mentioned. Patterson, is he a wide receiver? Is he a running back? No one really knows. He might even line up at cornerback. They drafted Frank Darby. I'm kind of staying away from that whole situation if it's not Ridley. I do like Pitts. They're saying, the saying is, year one tight ends. But this dude's a wide receiver. Let's face it. He's a huge wide receiver. Chad, if you're still here, he's Nate Varnes. Chad will know what I'm talking about. He's Nate Varnes. He's a huge wide receiver that they line up at tight end. He's going to be all over the field. People are going to overdraft Mike Davis. They're going to overdraft him because he's the starter in Atlanta. Qadri Allison is going to be a name that I think could be surprising. I believe last year was a rookie year. What the hell happened to Ito Smith? I think Allison is going to be a name that's going to be surprising. They drafted Hawkins and Huntley, I believe, are the two guys that they drafted.
Hawkins, correct.
And Huntley. And those two guys, I don't want to say special, but if you watch some tape, people that watch this, I guess, know that I don't watch college football much at all. But when the rookies come in, I'll go back on YouTube and I'll watch some tape. Like that's how I told everybody, you should get James Robinson. I do that all the time with these guys coming out of nowhere. I did it last year with Marquez Callaway, who I mentioned when I was talking about the Saints. If they look good on that tape, chances are they probably got some skills. And I think Hawkins and Huntley both have some skills. Davis is going to be overdrafted. He's going to split time with at least Allison. And then these rookies are going to start to come in as well. So if there's anybody at all on drafting on this team, it's Ridley, of course, but everybody's going to go after him. He's going to get a little overdrafted. but he's got the skills, and it's Pitts. I think that if you miss out, and he's included in the big four, all of a sudden I'm noticing it's Waller, Kittle, Kelsey, Pitts, Hawkinson.
He
Like
hasn't even caught a ball yet professionally.
I know, but if he falls to like the 6th or 7th tight end off the board, I'd grab him.
Yeah,
I'd grab him.
The production should be there, man. I mean, the target share.
That's the thing. That's the thing, because when you weigh Russell Gage, Frank Darby, we'll see what he does. Zacchaeus Olamide or whatever the hell his name is. Yep. All these other guys, Cordarrelle Patterson, like, and you're like, okay, I could throw to them or I could throw to this monster. I'll throw to the monster.
Yeah. And you think about it. I mean, he's bigger than Julio, obviously, but it seems like he moves like Julio. I mean, it's amazing for his size, the way he moves. Ito Smith, by the way, is on Arizona Cardinals.
Okay.
All right.
Well, he'll get more burn than James Conner this year.
That's not surprising at all. I'm not even going to write that down. All right. NFC East. Let's go with the Washington football team. So it's pretty funny. I saw a picture, I think I sent it to you too, of my favorite person, Ryan Fitzpatrick. His personality is just top 10. It's him holding like the first day of school. You know how you see these things now where it says like kindergarten and who your teacher is and so on and so forth. And on the bottom, he wrote best friends. He put Terry and Curtis.
Yeah.
And it was like, that sells me a lot right there. That's who he's looking with. That's who he's working with. Obviously, Curtis Samuel seems to be COVIDed up and has his little ailments and stuff like that. Hopefully he gets back. But those are the two big names that I'm seeing. Who else should we be looking at on this team as far as from a wide receiver standpoint that could get production? Antonio Gibson, he looked good at the end of the year. He's getting drafted higher and higher. It seems like every single time, every week that I see, he's getting up and up and up on the board. Are we comfortable with drafting him that high? And Logan Thomas came on last year. Are we okay with him as a tight end? Is he kind of, in my opinion, he's a little bit of a sleeper for me, especially from a Ryan Fitzpatrick who loved Gesicki when he was in Miami.
Join me, if you will, everybody. I don't even know. Is anybody watching?
Yeah, we got a few.
Join me, if you will, in a moment of silence. Okay. That was for Bryce Love.
Oh.
Sometimes we make a bad call. And I don't want to make excuses for myself. It's not like he played and sucked. He never played.
He never made it there.
What the heck? All right. So you talked about Fitz and his cute little sign there. He should have added one more name. And it's not the rookie. It's not Amy Brown.
Yeah.
It's Antonio Gandy Golden.
I knew it.
Oh, baby. I got a feeling about him this year. Listen, you can get him in the last round of your draft, or you can make him number one on your watch list after your draft. And let's just see what happens this preseason with him out there. Antonio Gandy Golden is going to be a stud. You're going to have Samuel over the middle. You're going to have Terry on one side, Gandy Golden on the other. Who are they covering? They're not covering Gandy Golden. This dude's going to explode. I'm telling you right now, he's going to be a name. He's going to be, as of right now, because people will draft him if he does well in the preseason, which I see him probably doing well. Mm-hmm. But he will be somebody who will be your number one week one waiver wire pickup before week 2. Antonio Gandy Golden. That's like kind of what I see happening with him.
I hope you're right. I'm going to put a little bit of a wrench because I'm not sure if you know who's on this team. Adam Humphries is on this team now.
Adam Humphries, I hate him.
I know. And that's what makes me think that Gandy Golden may not shine as bright because of Adam Humphries.
Right when it's AGG's time to shine, they'll be like, throw Adam out there. Let him catch a ball or two. Oh, I hate him. But at least I think Humphreys would spell Samuel,
Mm.
because they play sort of that same inside slotty slot master position.
I
Yeah,
think Curtis Samuel on this team is going to be interesting, man. He was a
sure.
very
Sweep,
unique
jet
role,
sweeps. Yeah.
very unique role with the Carolina, and I can see Ron Rivera doing the same thing with him because he's already coached him too.
Mm-hmm.
He was on that team when Rivera was there.
Right.
So again, it's a very
Yeah.
interesting combo there, and I can honestly see Curtis Samuel being having more targets than Scary Terry. I mean, Scary Terry is going to be good. Don't get me wrong, but I can see Curtis Samuel being that dump off guy, that go to that, like you said, jet sweep or screens on the outside and so on. And so that fits into Fitzpatrick's game.
I got another one for you.
Go for it.
If it's not Antonio Gandy Golden, it's going to be Mr. Jarrett Patterson. Rookie running back, Scott Missile, Darren Sproles Jr., part 2.
Okay.
Because the other Darren Sproles Jr. is Tariq Cohen. This is part 2. Jarrett Patterson. You don't know his name yet.
I don't. I have no clue who that is. I see on
But that's why you're here. Because everybody else is saying Antonio Gibson is going to be special. You want to grab him. Sure. But you also want somebody else that could steal some of his thunder, because there's going to be injuries and you want to know about them before anybody else does. Jarrett Patterson. Keep that name.
Right.
Keep that name.
Let's go on to the next one here. The New York Giants. So they had to stop practice the other day because they got into a fight with each other, in which I heard Daniel Jones was on the bottom of the pile. I know how much that's why I'm bringing up this story, so I can see it turn red. But it's interesting. This team, to me, I have no clue how this team is going to be this year. Do they win the division because of how poor the division is? Or are they in the bottom of the division, which shouldn't probably be very far of wins and losses, to be honest with you. But Saquon's coming back. Everyone's down on Saquon. They think, the injury and so on. This kid Saquon has a chip on his shoulder saying, watch what I can do. And in my opinion, I think Saquon going at the end of or the beginning of the second round, towards the mid of the second round, I'm taking a chance 100% on that if he's still there. Are you feeling the same way I am? A big move, Kenny Golladay going there. Seems to be injured already. Is still dealing with that knee injury and stuff like that. They drafted that kid, Tony, who is a lot like Slayton to me, to be honest. So I actually have him in our fantasy. I have both of them. An interesting combo is Ingram and Kyle Rudolph in this system. Mm-hmm. How do you see that helping Ingram or hurting Ingram in that situation? And anybody else we should be thinking about?
First things first, Mr. Wanzer, what is that voice? That voice is the generic television radio man that tells you to do what everybody else tells you to do. Duh. 2, I have the Giants winning this division. 3, I have no clue how.
That's what I said. I have no clue how this team is going to be looking this year, man.
I think Daniel Jones has a good year. I think he bounces back. I think he keeps his feet under him next time he runs. I don't think he falls at the 5. He's got the wheels. He showed them off. He's got a ton of weapons. I like Tony. I like Shepard still. Galladay's good. Slayton's good. They got a lot of weapons. Do I want any of them on my team? I don't know. I don't really think so. Go ahead. I don't really think so. Evan Ingram was somebody that I was very high on last year, but he just can't seem to stay healthy. With Kyle Rudolph being there, maybe that takes some of the plays off, takes some of the pressure off, because the other tight ends that were sharing it with him last year, in the last 3 years, really weren't that good. Saquon, Rob talked about Saquon. I want to draft him. I'd feel more comfortable drafting him at the end of the second, beginning of the third, than in the middle or beginning of the second. I'm just nervous. I'm nervous about that injury. he came back too soon. It seems like he comes back too soon, too often. I got burnt on a first round top 5 pick on him last year in one league. Kind of threw a wrench in a lot of things, but we were able to recover from that, but never fully because we didn't have our number 2 pick. I think he was last year, maybe, or number 3. I don't know. Saquon, I'd be fine with Saquon, um, but I want him as my number 2 running back at the end of the second round, the beginning of third. I would let somebody else take him beforehand. I'd rather take somebody else that doesn't have this building um, injury history going on. But I do think the Giants are going to win the division. And in order for that to happen, the reason I thought that was because I felt like Saquon would be back. But I do think that they're going to spell him quite often. So, Rob, you're just tuning in. I said I feel more comfortable with Saquon at the end of the second, beginning of third, as my second running back, rather than my first at the end of the second or even the middle of the second. I can't hear you.
It'd be good if I took myself off of mute. But yes, I do agree with you. For me, if I'm drafting in the middle of the second round to not let him go by, that's what I'm saying. I'm okay with taking him in that area because he probably would be my second running back. I'm actually going complete opposite. I'm actually going running back. I think this year as far as how I'm going to be playing things
Right.
in a couple leagues, to be honest with you, because the value's there in the running backs, and I feel like there's a lot of potential, a lot of moving parts this year in the NFL that it's kind of a wait and see kind of game. I think ads and pickups are going to be very big this year, in my opinion, but that's kind of how I'm playing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you answered this. Going back to Tampa, I would love to see OJ Howard on a different team.
Sure.
I could agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll probably never happen because Gronk, this will probably be, I mean, as soon as Brady goes, he's done. And if Brady plays 3 more years, he'll probably hang around for at least 2 of them. I don't know. This has got to be Howard's last year. I mean, what was it, 2017 he came to the team?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, same year as Evan Ingram.
And Godwin, right.
Yeah.
And Mahomes. Yeah, so this has got to be his last year. I don't know. Maybe he signs somewhere else. I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you.
Bait. I mean, if they need something, if they want to get some draft picks, especially knowing that, I mean, you're not going to have Gronk forever. You're not going to have Brady, obviously, and forever.
He's just got to stay healthy. That's his problem.
All right. Moving on to the next team here. Dallas Cowboys. We saw them on Thursday night. Didn't look good. Obviously, we are waiting to see what happens with the big contract himself, Dak, that he got. Still seems like he has that injury bug. Sounds like it's going to begin into the season. They're hoping to have him back week 1, but there's potential there of not being ready by week 1.
Right.
So I don't know if you've seen Zeke, what he kind of physique that man is in. He's showing it off as well. Zeke is being the 5th or 6th pick in a lot of drafts, which is a little surprising to me. Seeing Kamara being still taken over him. Do you think that's interchangeable still, especially with what's going on in New Orleans? And let's talk about the wide receivers. Everybody has CeeDee Lamb as being the top receiver there this year. Are you in agreement with them?
No, I'm not going to pay up for CeeDee Lamb. My favorite wide receiver on this team is well documented. It's Michael Gallup.
Yes,
it's Michael Gallup. And Michael Gallup with Dak is even better. You know who else is even better with Dak? Zeke. You know who else is even better when they're not so fat? Zeke.
You leave him alone.
I am loving Zeke this year because the offensive line is back. You mentioned he's going 5 or 6. I didn't even know he was going that high. I thought people were completely overlooking him. It must be Dallas Cowboy fans that are just doing mock draft after mock draft and just drafting him number 1. I can see him easily falling to 8 to 12, end of the first round.
Wow.
Right? If Zeke is available at the end of the first round, you need to take him.
100%.
Without a doubt. I think Zeke is going to have a huge bounce back year. I think a lot's going to depend on Dak, obviously. They better have a better plan, which you would think they would. Their coach is a moron, firsthand experience. Green Bay Packers, Mike McCarthy. But last year they sort of got blindsided, so to speak, with Dak going out, and everything just fell apart. First year, Dallas, no clue of what to do. Ben DiNucci, enough said. And I feel like they got a better plan in case Dak is out. They get the whole preseason to prepare in case Dak is out. Their offensive line's back. I think that Zeke is going to have a heck of a year this year. Tony Pollard's going to get some burn. Tony Pollard would be one of my favorite backups because of everything I just mentioned. And people are going to draft other people as a favorite backup. I mean, Kareem Hunt's obviously number one. But Tony Pollard's probably right there at number two because he showed what he can do when he's got the ball and the time and the play time. But I love Michael Gallup. I will let other people take CeeDee Lamb and overdraft him. I think Michael Gallup is going to ball out this year. It could be his last year in Dallas. Big contract waiting. But we've seen it countless number of times. And this happens with players. Michael Gallup is a guy that I would definitely target as my fourth wide receiver at worst, if not third. Probably in, I don't even know where he's going. It's round 6 or 7 when it's time for a third wide receiver. Maybe round 8 because people are going to take.
He's probably going to be.
People are going to take Cooper and CeeDee Lamb way before him.
They have him as wide receiver 47, but overall as 114. So yeah, that's probably, you're right, around 8th, 9th, 10th, depending on the size of your league.
Yeah. I would take him in round 8, and I'd be happy, more than happy. I'd be ecstatic.
All right, on to the next one here. The Philadelphia Eagles. They said bye-bye to Carson Wentz. They said, hey, we don't want you. You can go to Indiana. We'll get to Indiana. But, wowzer. Jalen Hurts the guy. Flacco's the backup. But you know who's also there? Mr. Nick Mullins. Just throwing that out there. Something happens to Jalen Hurts, Nick Mullins is there, man. They drafted Gainwell, but Miles Sanders, I don't know. People are down on Sanders, man. I don't know. I mean, he had an okay season last year. Mm-hmm. Was he the greatest? No. That offensive line was horrible. I mean, that offense was horrible. And he took the brunt of the load, and he did a lot by himself. They've updated a little bit here and there, but it seems like is it going to be the same thing with Miles Sanders? Are we okay with being the same thing for Miles Sanders? Devonta Smith is hurt. Jalen Reagor was okay last year. A lot of people are high on Fulgham. Are you feeling Fulgham? Ward? I mean, there's a kind of just like a bunch of malarkey everywhere, to be honest, with this team. The one that I'm seeing that could be a consistent would be Dallas Goedert.
And he's hurt.
And he's hurt as well. So it's funny. If Goddard comes back healthy for the season, I'm making a prediction. I see Zach Ertz. If somebody gets hurt, a big name tight end gets hurt, Zach Ertz.
Sure. Of course. 100%. So, yeah.
He's just going to be sitting back there.
As far as this whole team is concerned, there's some pretty solid rumors that they're going to trade for Deshaun Watson. They must really not like Jalen Hurts, which I don't understand because I thought he looked
last year, man.
Pretty darn good the last few games that he started. But we'll see. And you would have to think that if they're trading Watson, they're probably trading Hurts, right?
Houston, that would be a part of that deal, I would assume.
I mean, you do trade DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. So it's probably not out of the question that, I don't know, maybe you would trade Deshaun Watson for who's that guy that was really, really terrible for the Bills? Nate Peterman. You'd probably you'd probably accept Nate Peterman for Deshaun Watson at this point. But let's say it's Jalen Hurts. One guy I really like on this team, and I love when this happens, Rob, you didn't even mention him. My favorite wide receiver on this entire team, because I'm not going to say the rookie, because everybody's saying the rookie, and I'm not even going to mention Rager, because he's everybody's favorite sleeper. It's Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins was great. Statistics were not incredible, but he was great last year when he got onto the field. Quez Watkins is probably going to be your most consistent wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he's another name that nobody's talking about. And he's probably third on the depth chart. He's right there for everybody to see, but nobody even knows he exists. Quez Watkins. Put it down. Miles Sanders, yeah, he looks good. But they're saying he's going to split time with Boston Scott.
You know what's funny, though? They also have Kerryon Johnson that they brought in.
They do. They do also have Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah, which, I mean, he can steal. I mean, they have Jordan Howard still, too. He can steal. So yeah. Is it kind of going to be another situation of carousel of running backs until somebody gets a hot hand kind of deal? Because you even saw that a little bit last year, too. I mean, Miles Sanders was your guy, but when he was out, it was kind of a rotation. It's like, all right, who's going to be our guy? Who's going to be our guy until he comes back?
Yeah, I would not overpay for Miles Sanders. Because just right now, they're already saying he's 50-50 split with Boston Scott. So
yeah.
There's one player I'm
a lot, man.
And Goddard, tried telling you last year, Goddard was going to take over for Ertz. He pretty much did. And now everybody knows Goddard. He's like number 6 on the tight end list. But they got another guy. Buffalo quarterback, Buffalo College and Buffalo Bills, turned tight end, Tyree Jackson. That's a name to write down somewhere because he's an athlete. And he is trying to pull the Logan Thomas, trying to come into the Tim Tebow, if you will, trying to go from a quarterback to a tight end. Logan Thomas, you just mentioned him before, made it work. Tim Tebow, I think he can make it work.
I agree.
Freaking huge. Tyree Jackson is a name to just write down somewhere. You're not going to draft him. Because if Goddard can't stay healthy and Ertz is with a walking stick, that's who's going to play.
Yeah.
So just
Richard Rodgers you saw him a little bit, but again, there's no consistency there.
Richard Rodgers could take a seat at the buffet.
Hey, Richard, what you doing? Here at the buffet, man.
they got corn on the cob.
All right, NFC North. All right, Green Bay Packers. I figured might as well come right out of the gate with them.
Sure.
The NFC North, might as well talk about them but your boy's back. He's putting out videos showing, hey guys, look at this. I'm 50 yards out, putting it in through a hole about that big. Dude, it's amazing. He's unbelievable. So, but anyways, the running back situation. They were able to get rid of Jamal Williams because I feel that they think A.J. Dillon is going to be able to take over that role. Aaron Jones got the money, but do we see Aaron Jones still being that 70-30 guy, or is it kind of going to be split maybe a little 55-45 or 60-40 kind of deal? Devontae Adams came back as well because of the whole situation with Rodgers. It was funny when they posted the Jordan Pippen thing at the same time. I don't know if you saw that or not, as far as the unity there. But it's Devontae Adams. They got Randall Cobb back because he wanted Randall Cobb back. That makes a difference. But who's that guy besides Devontae Adams that we really should be focusing on that will be getting the fair share of targets? I know you weren't a big Bobby Tunyon fan, but now another year in with Rodgers, is that going to be the guy, or does it go back to who you thought originally was going to be, like a Jay Sternberger or something like that?
Yeah, I would love for it to be Sternberger. He's suspended for 2 games. They said he's doing pretty well. And he's catching a lot of good balls, but he's suspended the first 2 games. That's going to set him back. Robert Tonyan, if you watched us last year, you know how I feel about him. Don't draft him. Don't draft him. There's fluke. And if it's not, I'll own up to it. He's going to be overdrafted. He's going to be way, way overdrafted. Getting Cobb back is huge for A-Rod. I think it's going to be huge for the team. I think that he is something that clearly was missing in the 1 year gone. It hurts Alan Lazard. Alan Lazard excelled in the slot. That's Randall Cobb's bread and butter. It's going to hurt Alan Lazard. I don't think they put Alan Lazard out wide. Um, he could play out wide. We've seen him catch a ton of balls on the sideline. Maybe they will. He's got to fight off Amari Rogers, the rookie. Valdez Scantling is still there as their deep threat. They got Devin Funchess, who took the year off because of COVID. He didn't want to play. So we'll see if he gets some burn. I think that, Cobb is somebody who, with this news, if drafts were happening and this happened, would have got overdrafted. He's still somebody that I think can add value to this team. He's not like ancient by any means. You mentioned the running backs. They drafted Kylan Hill too. So he's probably going to get some burn. I think Aaron Jones is fine, but you are going to lose. I mean, they never just went 100% Aaron Jones, and they're not going to do that, especially with Jamal Williams gone, drafting Kylan Hill and having A.J. Dillon with his legs of steel, his thunder thighs.
Thunder thighs.
So it's
tree trunks.
So Aaron Jones has to be drafted with a grain of salt, but that's not news to anybody. As my number 2, I love him, but I don't think he'll fall for most of you. I think with this team, you just kind of gotta hope that you get Adams and maybe A-Rod late if you want a quarterback, and just hope that another good season comes. But they're gonna have a lot of little tiny pieces, I think. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be like Cobb will have a pretty good game here and there. Lazard will flash because Cobb's there every once in a while. Amari Rogers will come in and have a big game here and there. Valdez Scantling might catch a deep one. Maybe Funchess comes in and does something. Tanyan might score a touchdown here or there when Sternberg. I don't know. They don't have like the name superstar weapons as the Bucks, but I get a Bucks feel from the Packers going into this year.
It's going to go all over the place, and that's what it is from a fantasy standpoint. I really think you have to pay attention to their preseason games. I mean, obviously things change, but look at the target shares. That's always my big thing. Look at where the ball's going. If you have a consistency of 1 or 2 receivers, and then that third receiver, you're just like, I can't figure out who it is. Just look at the target shares, but also look at the time that they're on the field. Is also another huge thing. Snaps is definitely something to pay attention to, because if you're on the field, there's potential of the ball then coming to you compared to obviously being on the sideline. Before we move on real quick, my son Zach wants to come and say hello real quick. He's been asking to be on the show for, I think, the last 3 seasons. So come here, Zach. We're talking about the Green Bay Packers.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Zach. How you doing?
He says hi.
Hi.
Aaron?
What do you think? Aaron Rodgers is going to have another good year. They're finally going to get to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
I'm
looking for the Jets to finally play a little better than how they used to. Like the Jets with Zach Wilson now.
I think that they will play a little better than they used to with Zach Wilson now.
Last year they had one of the baddest seasons.
Yes, they definitely had one.
We're huge Jets fans here.
This season.
Their
think it's going to be better?
Their season was so bad last year, they even lost the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
By winning.
We were quite upset when that happened, to be honest with you.
I think you'll be better off. I'm very public with that. I think Zach Wilson will be better than Trevor Lawrence.
And we'll definitely be getting into the Jets fairly soon, because I have a lot to talk about with them as well. So you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Goodbye.
Bye, Zach.
Right. You want to go back upstairs? Yeah. Thanks, bud.
See ya.
And they've actually both have asked, because I have twin sons. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that plenty of times, but Josh as well was like, I would like to kind of just get Nick's opinion on the Miami Dolphins. I was like, where did that come from? But sure.
Nice.
But very random. It was a random thought the other day, and it was just like, that's what I would ask on the show would be, what is your opinion on the Miami Dolphins?
Well, they're coming up.
Oh,
They're
they
coming
are.
up.
They're eventually coming up here. But it's funny. It's that their sports knowledge is just getting there, and
Oh, Zach's incredible.
yeah,
What
it's getting better and better by the day, man.
if anybody's still watching? Last summer we went to a zoo, and it was like after early in the morning, and the night before his kids are watching the Yankees play. I don't know why Rob lets them watch that type of television, but they were watching the Yankees play, and Zach, the one that was just on, was just like, "Oh, Aaron Judge is hitting 248 with 8 home runs and 15 RBIs in his last 22 games," and I'm just like, "How do you even know this?" And Rob's like, "He knows like all the stats." I'm like, "That's just incredible." So you
I
know
sometimes
what?
have to go to him, man.
Yeah, I believe it. So maybe one day I'll have to go to them, and we'll get them knowing the football stats, and maybe they'll get somebody. Maybe they'll get out of a basement and they'll actually do something with themselves that you and I just can't do.
It's funny. He always tells me, he's like, I'm going to be a baseball player. Then I'm going to commentate. And then I'm going to be a bus driver. I'm like, that sounds like a fantastic plan. All right, let's go on to the next one here. Chicago
Sure.
Bears. I've said this, and I will put it out there to the public and everybody. If Justin Fields gets on the field, in my opinion, I think he will be Rookie of the Year. Andy Dalton's in the way right now, and they said it's Andy's team. I've made bets with people that if Justin Fields gets on the field, I feel that he will be that X factor for the Bears. He reminds me of a mixture of Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray. They mobile quarterback, has the arm, has the knowledge. He was a winner in college. I really think that would be something that can come true. But again, Andy Dalton's there. So let's talk about that a little bit. As far as David Montgomery, you said Tyreek Cohen or Darren Sproles Jr. seems to be coming back. Seems to still be behind schedule, though. Doesn't seem like he's going to be there for the beginning of the season. How does that affect things? The coaches publicly said David Montgomery is getting 20-plus snaps a game. He's our guy. I would love to take somebody where my coach is saying that because we know he's going to get touches. How do you feel? As well as Allen Robinson. Who's that second guy there? Is it Mooney? Mooney came on big last year. Is it somebody else we should be paying attention to? And Cole Kmet, obviously his rookie season wasn't the greatest, had a little bit of flash here and there. Jimmy Graham's still there. Do we see more Cole Kmet this year, though, compared to Jimmy G?
Yeah, first off, I mean, you got to write a rap or something. Justin Fields is on the field. I feel he's going to beat the field. Like, that's what you got to do. Something along those lines. Some type of wordplay with that. Monty, love him. Yeah, we got Tariq Cohen, Darren Sproles 2.0 version A coming back. I still love Monty. Not sure where he's going, but he's somebody I would definitely target as an RB1 in the second round if I could. I know Darko will pass on him. But I like him. And I think Justin Fields will be the starter by week 1. I think he will outplay Dalton. I just think the fans are going to clamor for him. They're tired of vanilla. And I'm not being racial here. They're tired of the boringness at quarterback. You know what I mean? And I feel like Justin Fields is going to just excite the fan base, and he'll just be more exciting. And I actually think he's going to be, if not second, at least the third out of this group. But for this year, I think you're spot on, and I think he'll come on strong. I like Allen Robinson because of it. I think Cole Kmet is somebody you can grab late, but Jimmy Graham is still not going away. I wish Riley Ridley would play, but it's going to be Mooney. It's going to be Javon Wims, who you don't even need to worry about. If it ever is Ridley, though, if Ridley makes the team and gets to play over Javon Wims, then we'll be like, okay, it's week 8. Waiver wire pickups. You need to go scoop Riley Ridley. It's Calvin Ridley's cousin, brother, whatever he is. I don't even know. But he's somebody I've been waiting a couple years for. And
I have plenty of his cards, man, for the card
yeah.
guys.
And they're like, just for whatever reason, and maybe it's him, but he's not getting onto the field enough. But he's somebody I think that could be explosive. I think it's Monty, Fields late in the draft as a backup, or bust for me with this team. Allen Robinson, I'd like. Um, I just don't think that I would be choosing him where he's going to go. I feel like that's the way it always goes with Allen Robinson for me. But I like him. Draft him.
All right, all right. Let's go on to the
Mhm.
next one here. Minnesota Vikings. They still have Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
That's I'm going to first start with that.
they do.
Justin Jefferson, luckily, nothing happened to his shoulder. It just seems to be a sprain, supposedly day by day. Let's talk about the wide receivers, though. Thielen didn't have obviously Justin Jefferson came on. Thielen had a little bit of a down year because of Justin Jefferson. A little sneaky one that joined the team that I think is going to be interesting is D.D. Westbrook. I know you're a big D.D. fan. Let's get your opinion on him. Is this the year that Irv Smith Jr. takes off, dude? Is this the time for him to shine? Let's talk about that. And then Dalvin Cook in most leagues are going number one. Number two, probably. Not number one, but number two. I feel like Mattson's going to take some burn, man. I really think drafting that high and still Kirk Cousins being the quarterback. Am I crazy for that? I'm a Minnesota fan. You know that. It's Jets, Minnesota. Those are my two teams. I I feel like Mattson's going to be in there though, and they are going to try to save Cook for a playoff run. Or do you think the same thing?
Yeah, as far as the Cook Madison situation, it's either going to be by chance, like Cook gets hurt, or it's going to be by choice. The coaches just want Madison to get more burn. So it's definitely going to happen that way. See Biker down there. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's how I was pronouncing it, Steven. Biker, hopefully. Let me know if that's right or wrong. Yeah, he caught 15 TDs, but weren't like 11 of them in like the first 7 weeks or something like that. Didn't he get off to like a ridiculous start last week? Year he sort of cooled off. I like Thielen. I'm not against him, but I'm a little bit more down on him this year than in previous years. Just have like this feeling that age is sort of catching up to him just a little bit. And yeah, Irv Smith, my number one play on this team. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and talk about Justin Jefferson. There's no reason. You want him, draft him.
Just writing stuff down.
You know, DD's fine. You're not going to draft him though.
You gotta. It's a wait and see kind of process. But again, it's just an interesting name. They always have problem with that third receiver.
Yeah,
it's been BB. It's been a bunch of.
They still have BB.
No, they do. I can't think of the other kid's name though. That was
they drafted a couple guys, like Darashaw or something like that.
Yeah. But anyways, all right, let's go on to the next one. Detroit Lions. Now we've talked about the Rams before. Now Goff's on here. This is not, I don't think, going to take very long. Besides Swift, Swift is, I think, the guy that I would take on this team. I'm staying away pretty much from everybody else besides Hawk. I guess would be my other choice. Anybody else you would be looking at or considering for depth wise?
Yeah, I mean it's Swift and Hawk, and because a Detroit running back that's supposed to be awesome can never stay healthy, Swift, Kerryon Johnson. You gotta draft Jamal Williams at some point, somewhere late. They got a rookie, Jermar Jefferson, who's going to be a third string, who's somebody to keep your eye on. Their number one wide receiver is going to be a rookie, Amon Ra, I believe is his name.
St. Brown, yeah. Amon Ra, St. Brown.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a stud. I think he's going to be. Yeah, I do think so, and I think that Cephas is going to resurface this year to be a weapon for the team. I think those are the two that I would focus on. Amon Ra, I'd grab him wherever he's going as like my third, fourth, and Cephas you could probably get way towards the end. But all others, I'd sort of just avoid. I feel like with this team, it's Hockenson, Swift, I think you mentioned.
All right, let's move on to the AFC South now.
Okay.
Tennessee Titans. We talked up Ryan Tannehill a lot last year. I think we were comparing his stats to Mahomes' stats because they were very similar once he got traded and so on and so forth. I think, once he became the starter, I really think that he can do it again. And it's not just because he got another target in Julio Jones, but the way he played the game, even in the playoffs, it's going to be Derrick Henry, but he was slinging the ball. He has upgrades, in my opinion, in his wide receivers, not only in Julio Jones, but he also got Josh Reynolds there too, which I think was undervalued with the Rams. As far as Henry, usually number 3 off the board, sometimes number 1, depending on if it's standard or PPR. But is there somebody that could take some of his touches this year that we should be concerned about?
Rob, if you recall, about an hour ago, we were talking about Christian McCaffrey, and I said, hey, there's another guy that is in the same exact position that the team is not going to keep feeding so much.
This is the guy?
This is the guy. Now, I'm not saying don't draft Derrick Henry, but I am telling you, you better go grab Darrington Evans. Rob, you and I, we sort of mentioned him last year. I think we're the first one to bring him up. I'll give credit where credit's due. They hardly gave him burn for one reason or another. But now he's in year 2, and they're going to give him burn. They are going to make him probably a third down back, probably going to spell sometimes on first and second. Darrington Evans is a guy that you could probably grab in the last round of the draft right now. And he's going to get significant touches this year. He's got the skills. He's fast. He can catch. He's got a little build to him. He's got some power. It's not going to take too much away from Henry, but do not expect a Derrick Henry 300 touches or whatever. The same way, don't expect Christian McCaffrey from 2 years ago. They're going to spell him some. In this situation, I think it could be, it's even more advantageous to actually draft Darrington Evans, whereas Chuba would be more to keep your eye on. Let's see what happens this preseason. Darrington Evans is a name and a player that I'm grabbing wherever I can. And you know what, Chad, if you're still watching, I thought you had Darrington Evans on your team, Rob. So I didn't even bother looking. And then I wake up one morning and I get a notification the Rossas picked up Darrington Evans. I wanted to puke. Like I was pregnant and I had morning sickness. I could not believe that I didn't even look to grab him. I'm so upset about that. I think he's going to be a killer. AJ Brown, fine. Julio's not taking anything away from him. Julio can't stay healthy. I made a mistake last year taking Julio with my second pick. Took Devontae Adams, Julio, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, my first 4 wide receivers. First 4 picks. Julio can't stay healthy. I don't think that he's going to take too much away from AJ Brown. Julio, the only one Julio's really going to hurt, because AJ Brown is spotty anyways. But when he gets his spots, he absolutely murders it. Julio is going to take away from Josh Reynolds, who Josh Reynolds was a huge sleeper. So when Julio went there, I would imagine Josh Reynolds' stock went way down. But he's somebody who you mentioned who I would be targeting. Julio Jones is not going to play 17 games.
Correct.
He's not going to stay healthy the entire time. Josh Reynolds is going to get some burn. And now that they don't have Ferkser is not going to bother me too much. He never did last year. I don't care what he did, what he produced. They're going to use 2 wide receivers. They used Corey Davis last year, and they used A.J. Brown every once in a while over the middle. I believe Humphreys was still there last year. It's going to be Josh Reynolds and A.J. Brown. Josh Reynolds is going to be your Corey Davis because Julio's not going to play too much. And when Julio does play, and he's on the field, and he's being Julio, I love Julio, Josh Reynolds becomes your Adam Humphreys. He can play the slot. And he can go deep. Josh Reynolds is a guy definitely target league.
All right. On to the next one here. The Indianapolis Colts. We brought them up before. We were talking about the Eagles. Wentz just can't stay healthy, man. It seems like it's a long timeline, too. 5 to 12 weeks. So it's just pretty much like, He may come back. We're not sure. Crazy that Quentin Nelson had the same exact foot surgery too. So that brings me to Jonathan Taylor. He's been drafted in the first round. With Wentz out and with Nelson out, does that make his draft stock drop tremendously? And does Marlon Mack having experience with the team help him as far as getting some burn, or Naheem Hines and so on and so forth? As far as wide receivers, they don't have a lot of them. It seems like it's Pittman Jr., it's Hilton, and it's Campbell. They didn't really draft anybody. They have some young kids, I guess, that they picked up and so on. But are those the three guys that we need to be looking at? And who out of the three will be the best choice? And it's Doyle and still Mo Alley Cox. Is that something that I even want to deal with?
Well, see, here's the thing. We'll start at the top. Eason, man, I hope he kills it in the preseason. Big fan. And I'm not speaking just cards. I like his game. Like his college tape, like his big arm. He's got to get better at the accuracy. We'll see what happens week 1 of the preseason. I'd imagine they give him at least the first half. So we'll see. But I'm going to be rooting hard for Eason. If Eason has a good first half, he's going to jump onto draft boards and probably allow the Colts say, okay, we got another week. We could maybe push Wentz back just a little bit. They're going to play Wentz. I mean, Easton would have to come out of the yard and just play ridiculous, and Wentz would have to be super hurt for them not to be like, okay, Easton, yeah, you played well, but they're going to put Wentz in because they're paying them, so they're going to. So let's just hope that we see something good out of Eason, so that maybe we know what's going on in the future when Wentz gets hurt again, because he will. As far as Jonathan Taylor, he's going to fall down draft boards, and not just to the novice, but also to the veteran or the pros or whatever you want to say, fantasy. And if it were me, I'd grab him. Let him fall. Let him fall all summer. He's probably going to do okay in the preseason. He'll adjust. Their offensive line is the best. Yeah, losing Nelson hurts, but they'll recover some from it. Let him fall a little bit more. Keep the noise low. He's somebody that you want to grab when he falls late into the second round and be like, oh, okay, I'll take him, because I still like him. The only downside you have here is that they got a ton of running backs. You mentioned Mack. You mentioned Hines. You didn't mention Jonathan Wilkins. They're all still there. They all take burn. Mack's going to get hurt again, just like I told you he would last year and the year before. Hines is going to do what Hines does, be amazing for a week, disappear for 6. Jonathan Wilkins sucks. So it's still Jonathan Taylor. The line will be okay. Their line without Quentin Nelson is still top 15 in the league. It's not like their line. It's not like their line became the worst in the league. People are overreacting to this. I'm not shying away from Jonathan Taylor like that. A little bit. People were saying, would it be Jonathan Taylor or Joe Mixon at one point? Like, that was a discussion. I was like, well, I like Joe Mixon. Like, yeah, he's got the injury history, but I kind of like him coming into this year. He's got Chris Evans to sort of spill him that we'll talk about when we get to that division. But Burrow coming back, he had a bad year because they had the terrible quarterback play, et cetera, et cetera. Mixon.
Are you mixing it up?
I'm mixing. I would have taken him before Jonathan Taylor when most people would have taken Jonathan Taylor a few weeks ago, 5 picks ahead of Mixon. So I wasn't huge on Jonathan Taylor as much because of all the different running backs and the way they use them all. I like Jonathan Taylor. Their line's the best in the league. There was nothing against him. But now that he's falling, I kind of like him even more. You know what I mean? I'm not overreacting to Quentin Nelson being out. Sucks. The line's not as good, but the line's not terrible. So don't read into what everybody else is telling you with that. Their line is not going to be the Dallas Cowboys line last year. They lost one, maybe one of the best in the game, but they lost one. They're not going to be ridiculously bad. And they're still going to have a decent quarterback playing. You said wide receivers, they don't have a lot. I think the complete opposite. I think they have a ton. They got Ty, they got Pittman, they got Paris Campbell, they got Zach Pascal. As far as the tight ends go, they got Mo Cox, they got Jack Doyle, they got Kylan Granson, who Kylan Granson's going to be an absolute stud for this team. They're going to use him. Again, the tight end, the first year thing, I feel like, other than Pitts, because Pitts isn't a tight end to me, he plays a position, but he's not. I think Kylan Granson could be somebody that's going to buck that trend. And yeah, he's got Mo Cox there, and yeah, he's got Jack Doyle, but they tried to find somebody last year instead of these two, and that didn't work out. It was, what's his face, from the Eagles and from the Niners. What was his name? I can't remember. The tight end they had. He could never stay healthy. He would splash every once in a while. He played for the Eagles. He was supposed to take over for Ertz.
I'm trying to think. Yeah.
Zach Burton.
Oh,
right?
Okay. Yeah.
Or Trey Burton.
Trey Burton.
But they drafted Kylan Granson to be that. And all signs are is that he's going to be that. So he is somebody that you have to put on your list. You miss out on the top tight ends. Kylan Granson is somebody to grab late. I think they got a ton of weapons. They got Mike Strachan. I have
no clue who that is.
He's a wide receiver that they drafted. I think they have a ton of wide receivers. And again, like we mentioned with a lot of teams, I don't know if that's really a good thing or a bad thing. But one guy I really like going into this year, much like with Marquez Callaway, who I mentioned with the Saints, and like Quez Watkins with the Eagles. Another guy is Zach Pascal. I feel like this year is like, I think it's his third year, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
The old adage was third-year wide receivers. I feel like Zach Pascal is going to explode onto the scene this year. I think Ty is going to take a lot of less plays this year. Pascal is going to get a lot more playing time. I really see him and Pittman sort of leading this team. And if Campbell can stay healthy, they got a lot of weapons on this team. And because of that is another reason why I'm going to zig towards Jonathan Taylor when everybody else zags away. You know what I mean? Because it's going to open up the run game. I'm not shying away from Jonathan Taylor. If you were high on Jonathan Taylor and you were like, oh man, I want him, I got pick 10 in my draft or whatever, I'm going to take him. And now you're like, I don't know what to do. Come back and get him when it comes back. The second round. Grab somebody at 10, comes back, grab him. Because nobody else is going to. They're all afraid. Don't be afraid. It's one player. Quentin Nelson, best in the game, maybe. But they're not. The line as a whole is not terrible. And I think you'll see that week 1 in the preseason. I mean, if I'm wrong and Eason getting smacked down, getting stuffed 5 yards back, Taylor, then I'm wrong. But I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be like that. Too much time to prepare.
They're saying that Quentin Nelson, that 5-week timeline seems like more of the timeline compared to Wentz, who's already had surgery on that foot. That's why they kind of gave him that 5 to 12. So hopefully that means that you're again. I mean, Nelson plays almost like 2 players, it seems like, on that line. But still, you're right. For 5 or 6 weeks, so you may not have it. It's a 17-week season. Obviously, there's a bye week, but still, you know what I'm saying? It's there's still plenty of time for Jonathan Taylor to actually be really good. I like your zag compared to zig.
Yeah.
All right.
You get a discount. You get an overreaction discount at this point.
All right. Houston Texans. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, you mentioned rumors to the Eagles. They have him playing cornerback and fullback or something like that in practices so he doesn't get fined. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Tyrod Taylor seems to be the guy over there. David Johnson is still there. Philip Lindsay, I've seen going off the board fairly high because people are they hip to knowing that David Johnson's not going to be there for very long. So is Philip Lindsay the guy? They got Mark Ingram. They got Rex Burhead. There are just tons and tons of running backs on this team. it makes me a little worried. Hilliard is somebody that I'm paying attention to be honest with you. The kid from Cleveland, right? Dontrell Hilliard.
Yeah.
I can see him taking some burn from those guys, but that's just me. From a wide receiver perspective, Brandon Cooks had a good year last year. It was because of Deshaun Watson, though. They traded for Anthony Miller, hoping that, again, it gives another target for Tyrod Taylor, or if they can make Deshaun Watson's situation at least work for this year, it's another body. What are you thinking as far as how this team, am I really taking anybody from this team, or am I just staying completely away?
Yeah. David Johnson sucks because we liked him last year as a value, and he did okay. And the last 3 weeks of the season, he was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
David Johnson was really, really good. Go back and look at his stats 15, 16, 17. His stats were bonkers. And then for everybody to just turn around and be like, oh my God, David Johnson had a terrible season. No, he had a couple good games. He got hurt. I think he was concussed. He came back. The last 3 games of the season, he was a league winner. Flat out. He was put him in the flex position, RB2. He was a league winner. Look at his stats. The problem with him this year is not only did they add Burkhead, Dontrell, Hilliard, who we liked last year for the Browns. We talked about him a couple times when Chubb went down. And Burkhead, Lindsey, they added those guys. That becomes an issue. Then you get rumors of they might even cut David Johnson. And it's what? Why? Is bad as he was, as old as he is, as injury prone as people may think he is, Rex Burkhead and Philip Lindsay aren't.
Yeah, exactly.
Really? They're 3 peas in a pod for the most part. David Johnson probably has the best skill set out of them. Their offensive line was terrible last year. They're much better heading into this season. The biggest downside, and I feel like if this never happened, was the Deshaun Watson thing. I feel like if the Deshaun Watson thing never happened, people wouldn't be this low on David Johnson right now. I'm low on David Johnson. I own him in a dynasty league. I'm actively shopping him. But I'm not giving him away because he's fine for me to be an RB2 or RB3 for at least a couple weeks, so long as he's still on the Texans, to see what I got with him. He's serviceable. Don't go out of your way to get him. But if people keep passing on, if they're drafting Philip Lindsay over David Johnson, let them. I'd rather take David Johnson, so long as he makes the team. The only player other than Brandon Cooks I'm taking on his team, if it's not Deshaun Watson, is Nico Collins, rookie wide receiver. Looks really good. I'm not touching their tight ends. I don't want Jordan Akins. I think you mentioned somebody on the last show, their tight ends, that you kind of liked. I don't know if you want to
Hill Waring. Yeah, that kid Waring. But it was more of the Deshaun Watson playing where Waring would have gotten the burn. He was always rumored to be with Deshaun Watson as far as in any type of training he was doing outside and so on. Him, Cooks, and I think it was Kiki Kyote or something like that were constantly being brought up. So that kid Waring, but again, that's really more on if Deshaun was playing. I don't think Waring will even see the field with Tyrod Taylor there.
Yeah. Well, what Braden said down there, ugliest running back room I've ever seen. Yes and no, because it's ugly because they're all oldish and herdy. But we spoke about the 49ers earlier. That room's kind of ugly to me too. I'd make them both just as ugly. The only difference between the Houston running back room and the 49ers running back room is the 49er has young, sexy guys. And this one has old, herdy men that need Ben Gay and shit. So maybe that's what makes this room uglier. You know what I mean? But it's I'd rather have Yeah, I'd like all, maybe not Mostert, but at this point, I feel like I'd rather have David Johnson than like any of those ancillary 49er running backs.
Oh, I forgot to mute myself. Sorry about that.
Just in case. That's all right. All right, moving on.
I'm going to pass you on to the next team, and then I have to go upstairs for a few minutes.
Okay.
So, it's a good one, though. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's plenty to talk about with them. Obviously, number one pick, Mr. Trevor Lawrence. I'm still not buying it, man. I don't know. That's just me, though. I think he's going to be okay. I love what Gardner Minshew said. I think I mentioned in the last show about he hasn't taken any number twos because he doesn't plan on being number two kind of situation. James Robinson, you told it. You started the show. Hey, I told you to draft James Robinson. Obviously, they got NTN, who's played with Trevor Lawrence. What is that situation going to look like? DJ Chark is still your number one. Chenault looked good last year. Marvin Jones Jr., a little bit of a interesting kind of player. I think that you can get some good draft value for. I think the targets could be there for him as well. And you mentioned Tim Tebow before. It would be between him and O'Shaughnessy.
Yeah. O'Shaughnessy.
Hey there, O'Shaughnessy. I'm going to come and take your balls. Oh, sorry. Weird.
Real quick.
Yes.
Before you run away, last year, 49 weeks ago, almost to the day, I'd imagine, everybody's saying Divine Zigbo, and the other name was Raquel Armstead.
Armstead is the one that never came off the COVID list.
Everybody was saying take these two, and I said, you could go back and look at the group page. Like I said, no, you want James Robinson. Yeah. I said that before anybody knew who he was. And you know what? This year, you still want James Robinson. People are going to take Etienne. They're going to take him. And they think that he's going to take the job. He's not. He's not. You don't have basically undrafted running back in his second year who killed it and probably could have been at least very close rookie of the year and bench him because you drafted a 3-down back. Etienne, that's how I pronounce his name. If I'm wrong, let me know. Travis. Etienne could be Etienne. He's going to play third down. He's going to play wide receiver at some point. James Robinson is still going to have value on this team. He's too good. And this team is even better than they were last year. And some of the pressure is going to be off of James Robinson, which means he's going to be even more fresh. I don't know if that's why, if it was keep Lawrence happy, it could be a little bit, maybe the coach as well. But it's also because exactly what I'm saying. James Robinson was the entire offense. 1 year, tons of usage. You bring in a guy that could spell him on third downs with skill. You bring in a guy that could play at the same time with skill. It's going to take some of the load off of Robinson. I feel like they know what they have. They struck gold with Robinson. They're going to continue to use him. I feel like drafting Etienne was one of the best things for a fantasy manager who likes James Robinson, because it's going to make people overdraft him and underdraft James Robinson. He's got a ton of value left. Do not think otherwise. What Rob had mentioned about T-Law, Mr. Lawrence, number one pick, the male Barbie, I don't see him as the best quarterback in this class. I've been laughed out of other rooms saying I think Wilson's going to be better. I think Fields, and I maybe even think Mac Jones is going to be better than Lawrence. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I don't know. What I saw in college, he had a very, very talented team that he did really good with them. Let's see how it goes when the team's not filled with all Americans. We've seen it before with Alabama quarterbacks. Rarely works. But we'll see. I'm not going to root against him. I don't dislike him. I think he's got a ton of weapons on the street. Rob talked about it. DJ Chark, Chenault, Marvin Jones is there. Colin Johnson, who came on last year, is there.
Dorsett.
Dorsett they got. I think another guy, maybe like Agnew or something.
Yeah.
Tebow's there. Tebow's going to take a little bit of the limelight, which will be good for Lawrence. I saw a meme, I think it's like, like ESPN for like a week. If Trevor Lawrence throws a touchdown to Tim Tebow, it's like that's all they're going to show for a whole week. It's like things about Lawrence and Tebow because that's all they talk about right now. So just imagine, like, if that happens, just turn off ESPN for a week because you already know what they're talking about. And I'm going to root for Tebow too. I love Tebow. I just feel like, as far as this team is concerned, I feel like people are going to underdraft James Robinson and overdraft the rookie. And I think that's a silly mistake. I think he'll be productive. I think the two of them will be productive together. That's the only thing.
All right. Did you see Braden's question and answer already? I feel there's a reason they got Etienne.
Yeah.
Happy. Okay, you did. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to got to pick up the pace a little bit here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Speed.
AFC East, the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen just got a huge mother contract. Holy moly, that's a lot of money. How are we feeling about Buffalo this year? Does that, usually when the contracts happen, it seems like players tend to not play as well as they have previously. Are we thinking that situation for running backs? Is it Zach Morris or is it Devin Singletary? Wide receivers, they pretty much stayed the same for them, but they added Manny Sanders. Does he do anything to the mix?
No. Yes, when he signed the contract, somebody made a post like before it even came through, like the fantasy thing, like, Josh Allen, blah blah. And I said, well, you know what that means? Sorry, Buffalo fans. Right? Because it's like you get the big money. I wrote that. I wrote that. It was the first comment in the whole thing. Somebody posted. I said, "Well, you know what that means." ... Sorry, Buffalo fans. Like, because that's just how it goes. I love Josh Allen. Gonna root for him. We're both in New York. I can't stand the Giants. I can't stand Giants fans. Jets, I don't really care too much about. Like one way or the other, root for them. That's fine. But like Buffalo, I root for Buffalo. I'd like them to do well. They lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. I want them to have success. So I'm not rooting against it. So Josh Allen, fine. Go out and grab him. Let's break the big contract curse. But I'll tell you one thing. The player that's going to get overdrafted on this team is Diggs. He's going to get overdrafted. He had it. Like, we love Stephon Diggs. Like, we loved him for the Vikings. We did. But he just was ridiculous last year. Defenses are going to adjust. Years like that rarely duplicate. I mean, sure, most recent history they do with like Tyreek Hill and stuff like that. But I just think he's going to be overdrafted. He's being drafted like the second or third wide receiver.
I see, second or third wide receiver. Yeah, usually, first round, 7th, 8th, 9th pick. It doesn't. He's usually the second guy off the board. It seems like. And
that's somebody that was like the 5th round.
Yeah, 4th, 5th round, a couple years ago.
I think he's going to be overdrafted. I don't think he's going to have a down year. I just think he's going to be overdrafted. I think that's too high. I think you got Gabe Davis coming in. It's going to steal a little bit of thunder. Cole Beasley ain't going nowhere. With or out, you know what I mean? And I think that Dawson Knox is going to take a step up this year. They did not draft or trade for a tight end to this point. I think that Josh Allen looks for him quite often. Actually, they did. They got Hollister, I think they got. But
correct. Yeah, they got Hollister.
He's nothing. And as far as the running backs go, you asked me 1 month ago, one player I was targeting, and I was all about it was Zach Moss. Now I'm starting to feel like, kind of like Devin Singletary. If they're both healthy, I think that they're both going to do pretty good. I think they'll both outperform their draft status. But
Does
neither
Breda
one can
throw
really stay
anything in
healthy.
there?
Huh?
Does Breda affect that at all, or is it
No.
going to be almost like a three-headed monster?
Come on, you're talking about two guys that are young, athletic, got muscle, can pound, that kind of get a little hurt, and then you're talking about Matt Breda, who like will have one big play and then he's hurt the rest of his life. No.
All right, on to the next one here. The Miami Dolphins.
Tell Zach to come down.
Yeah, right.
Josh.
Josh, yeah.
Josh.
Does Tua take the step, man? They got a lot of flack on him last year. He didn't look good. I mean, he's coming slow for that major injury and stuff like that. It looks like he bulked up, though, man. He's definitely looking a lot more in shape this year from the pictures that I've seen. So let's talk about that. Who's the starting running back? Is it Gaskin? Is Ahmed possibly the starting running back?
Ahmed,
I'm sorry. A lot of Lynn Bowden Jr. talk as well.
Last year.
And as far as wide receivers, they picked up Will Fuller. They got the kid Waddle. Fuller's going to be out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, for suspension for this season. But how does that affect your Devontae Parkers, your Preston Williamses, your Albert Wilsons, and so on? Who's going to get the target share from the wide receivers? And is Gesicki, should he be considered in the top 5 tight ends?
Well, first and foremost, Tua. I like Tua. I think he's going to have a really good year. No Fitz there to play, musical chairs with, like they did last year. It's like, oh, he's doing pretty good. Like, okay, let's put Fitz in. Oh, Fitz, you're doing pretty good. Let's put Tua in. What the heck? I like Waddle. They're saying they're putting him all over the field, and he's absolutely killing the ball. He's right now, my favorite rookie wide receiver. Now, I know that they want to talk about Harris and Smith, right?
Yeah.
And Burrow's not looking too good, still playing his way back. We haven't talked about Cincinnati yet, but they got a bunch of weapons. And then as far as the Eagles go, Smith's hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, whatever. So I like Waddle. He's my favorite wide receiver at this point. Fast, right? Gotta like the fast guy. Played college with Tua.
Oh, yeah.
Come on now. He's my number one rookie wide receiver at this point. If you can get him, get him. Devontae Parker hurt already. Come on now. Preston Williams coming back. You know he's going to get hurt sooner or later. You know I love him. Mike Gesicki, you know I love him, but they did draft a tight end that they're saying because this could be Gesicki's last year, whether they trade him at some point or they just don't re-sign him. Don't know. Hunter Long. Hunter Long's the name.
Yep.
So I would imagine they'll probably play 2 tight ends, which they did last year because you would always think it was Gesicki catching a touchdown, but who was it? What was the other dude's name?
It was the old guy. Oh, no, there wasn't 3 tight ends that had very similar numbers that kept on switching back and forth.
But there was always the one, and you're like, Gesicki, and you're like, well, that wasn't it, but whatever. So I love Gesicki. I would not overdraft him because I feel like Hunter Long's going to steal some of his thunder, just like they did last year, but we'll see. As far as Gaskin's getting overdrafted. I'm sorry. He is. Ahmed is going to at least take 30% of the touches minimum, if not more. I talked about Salvon Ahmed very early last year. Before anybody, myself included, even considered Myles Gaskin. Like before he finally started doing good, I was like, oh, they got this guy, Salvon Ahmed. Like I feel like they should play him. And then Gaskin started to heat up. Gaskin was the hot name, and then Gaskin got hurt. And I was like, hey, remember that guy I was telling you about, Salvon Ahmed? You should pick him up. He played that next week. He was absolutely amazing. And then Gaskin came back, and they sort of shared time together. I think Ahmed's the better overall runner. I think they're going to end up sort of splitting, so don't overdraft on Gaskin.
All right. New England Patriots. You already mentioned Mac Jones. You thinking possibly being the second best or third
If
best
he gets to
out of this
play.
class if he gets to play.
Yeah.
I don't get Belichick, man. He's talking up Cam Newton. I don't know if it's just for confidence or what it is. They were showing video of Cam Newton throwing the ball. I mean, he's just not accurate. I mean, we knew that already, but even in practice, I mean, there's nobody coming out. They're really not going to tackle you, and you're still inaccurate. Like, so it just, I don't know. I drafted Mac. I know I hate the Patriots. I drafted Mac Jones in our dynasty because I am in the same boat as you. I honestly think this kid has potential of being that good. And I have Deshaun Watson, so I wanted to try to figure out who's a quarterback that I'm not going to have to pay heavily for that no one's really going to be focused on. And Mac Jones is the one who stuck out for me. But the running back situation, it's Harris, it's White, it's Sony Michel. Are we staying away from it? Aguilar, Myers, Bourne, are we staying away from it? Jonnu Smith, I think, is the biggest thing here, and Hunter Henry. That is going to have to be the go-tos, in my opinion, with your Aguilar possibly being the third option almost in a way. Do you think the same thing?
I like Harris. I would draft Harris.
Okay.
I think that 2 years ago, everybody forgot about him. Last year, I said, grab him. As soon as he got to play, he was great. And I will say great while he was able to play. And I think that another year under his belt, being spelled every once in a while by Sony. James White's getting older. He only does a little bit here and there. I think this is going to be Damian Harris. I think that if they go to Mac Jones sooner or later, it's going to help Harris. Cam Newton's terrible. Even his own teammates are down on him. It was publicized a couple of weeks ago that they're like, he just doesn't have it anymore. They're comments that teammates, like, when teammates are talking down on you like that never happens. They'll always talk up a teammate. They don't like him. They don't think he's good. Neither should you. Neither do I. Aguilar, I'd be fine with Aguilar. I think he's the only wide receiver worth really owning. Jacoby Myers did show out just a little bit last year. Harry wants to be traded. And the tight ends, you know what? I got Hunter Henry in one of my dynasty leagues. I can't get rid of him. I would sell him for chips, like literally, like Amazon, UPS, FedEx me some chips. like Hunter Henry's good. He's fine. But with him and Jonnu, I feel like they really wanted Jonnu. And they got him and then said, oh, we can get this guy too. And then they got Henry. And they have both. And everybody's like, Gronkowski and Hernandez. Gronkowski. Yeah, that was Brady. It wasn't Cam Newton. All right? It was Brady. And that was like 15 years ago, I feel like, or 10 minimum, right? And Gronkowski and Hernandez, and you know how much I love Jonnu, Gronkowski and Hernandez, way better than Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. Way better. Way better.
Yeah.
At that point in time. They also have Asiasi and Dalton Keene. They have 4 tight ends that can play football. Asiasi never really got a chance. Dalton Keene hardly got much. They both rookies last year drafted. They're going to use all 4. You know they're going to.
Oh, yeah.
You know it. Do not overpay for Henry. Do not overpay for Jonnu. Jonnu, I probably gave you his name before anybody even knew who he was. People were still on the Delaney Walker train. And I was like, Delaney Walker? You want Jonnu Smith? He came out of nowhere and blew it up. So trust me, I love Jonnu Smith. But what I'm telling you right now is that he can't stay healthy. He's proven that the past couple of years. He's going to be sharing time with at least one other guy, if not 3 total other guys. And as of right now, he's got Cam Newton. Once Mac Jones goes in, the value goes up. But people are overpaying right now from what I've seen with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry combined thinking they're going to be Gronk and Hernandez. I don't see it. I don't see it happen. Again, if it happens that way, maybe it could because the wide receivers aren't anything special. But that was Brady, and those two guys were different animals than these two guys.
I totally agree with you. 100% correct. And it's funny is that I like Hunter Henry also, but he's the same exact boat. He's been hurt consistently, and that's why I think they got these guys knowing, like, hey, if they make a couple of splash plays for us in games, knowing that I'd rather have them for 12 out of the 17 games, knowing that it's going to help us win some games, we'll take that chance.
Yeah, and if they get hurt, I could put Asiasi in there, or I could put Keen in there.
Exactly. All right, let's go on to my New York Jets. You said Zach Wilson's your favorite quarterback.
Yes.
Supposedly a lot of interceptions. They're saying that James Morgan's outplaying him right now. I don't know, man. I'm wholeheartedly hope that you are correct. Somebody that I do want to mention, Michael Carter getting first team reps. Tevin Coleman's there. He always just seems to be a nuisance into running back situations.
Yeah.
But Michael Carter, they're saying, could potentially be the starter by the end of the season. Wide receivers, they picked up Corey Davis. I think that's an excellent pickup for them. But the kid that they drafted, Elijah Moore, they say that his hands are ridiculous. That's somebody who I know I'm targeting more towards the late rounds. I feel like people are going to be paying attention to New York Jets and wanting their receivers and so on and so forth. What are you thinking as far as how this new New York Jets team is going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, case in point, like not only do I like Zach Wilson as a pro-style quarterback better than Lawrence, just as they sit right now. We'll just talk about those two. Wilson's in a better position with better weapons than Lawrence, than Mac Jones, than Fields, than even Trey Lance. Like, say what you want, but Moore, which you talked about, Crowder, still.
Hey, he looked great last year, man.
Yeah.
He was great.
Corey Davis, and although they are now saying they might trade him, Denzel Mims.
Yeah.
So it's like you've got some good wide receivers. You've got some good running backs who can catch the ball. I love Carter. I think he's going to be starting week 1. P. Ryan never really got a chance last year. When he did, he wasn't very good. We'll see how he looks in the preseason. But Tevin Coleman can catch passes. I mean, that was his thing. They drafted Tevin Coleman to basically take over for Devonta Freeman back in Atlanta because he was such a good pass catcher and so big and strong and fast. He's much older now. He can't stay healthy. The wind blows. He falls. But he's still there, and he can help Zach Wilson out. And so I don't want any of them other than Carter, maybe Crowder, Corey Davis. I think, he was still a number 5 pick, 2017.
Yeah.
Right? Or whenever that was, 17 or 16.
17. I think you're right, 17.
He was still a number 5 pick. Had a couple junk quarterbacks in Tennessee. Tannehill comes in, finally becomes good. I mean, so it's like, we'll see. I feel like if he could repeat what he did last year or come close or do better, tons of value there. And we'll see with Elijah Moore. I was high on Denzel Mims, but I guess he's not doing too well, and they might trade him. So we'll see where he ends up.
And the funny part about it, it's not only the thing that he's doing too well. I just think everybody's almost
doing better
than what he's doing. Because I mean, I've been watching practice, and Mims is catching balls like holy moly. That he shouldn't be catching those type of balls.
Well, let me stop you there. Is that like a Jet thing to do? Like that's such a Jet thing. Like, hey, we got these 3 guys that are really doing good. Let's get rid of this 4th guy. We don't need him.
Yeah,
it's like, no,
yeah.
You should keep him for depth because 2 of the guys are Corey Davis and Jamison Crowder who get hurt a lot.
Yes. And that's the way they play their games.
That's such a Jet thing to do.
100% correct.
Jet thing to do. Like, don't trade your depth for what?
That's the problem that they had last year. Think about when they had all 3 wide receivers with Sam Darnold on the field. The offense moved. They actually scored points.
Yeah,
when they didn't have all 3 on the field.
I know.
It wasn't. It
What
didn't
are they
move.
doing?
So again, it's the typical Jets.
Jets.
You know what though? I think bringing in Salah is going to really change. He's changing the culture, kind of like what happened with the Knicks. The Knicks culture changed because of how Thibodeau came in and Leon Rose and so on and so forth. I really think Salah's that type of Jets
We'll see.
coach that can change the atmosphere, can change the
see.
culture.
Right.
Hopeful wishing. I really thought they were going to be a winning record last year in the Jets too. So again, this is from the heart more than it is from anything. All right, AFC North, Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. Benjamin Roethlisberger is back. He looks like a 40-year-old man. But Dwayne Haskins been looking okay, they're saying, man, in preseason. Should Ben be worried about his job? Najee Harris, obviously the big story, played the preseason game. I think he averaged like 3.2 yards per carry or something like that against obviously lower end players. It's his first time on the field. People don't over exaggerate it. He's going to get a bulk of the share, and his draft value is there, in my opinion. As far as wide receivers, are you still high on Deontay Johnson? This Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster. You said it before. The guys you expected to have huge years last year that didn't play well, could Juju be somebody that fits into this category now this year? And Ebron's just Ebron, and he's a person.
And Freiermuth, right?
That's Freiermuth, yes, Freiermuth.
Yeah, Vermouth. Yeah, you know what? I said I feel like Haskins is going to go to Pittsburgh. I like it. Yeah, he's doing fine, but he's not taking Big Ben's job. Big Ben would have to absolutely be terrible or get hurt and then to get a shot. So he's not even on a fantasy radar. But just keeping in mind that he's better than Mason Rudolph. I don't care what anybody says. Even you, Braden. And Najee Harris, I'd love to take him in the first round. Rob, what pick did we get? Did we get pick 10, 12? What did we get? We might be looking at Najee Harris, so if somebody's in front of us, they're hearing this. But I mean, I love it right there. I feel like, listen, their offensive line was terrible last year. They were the worst rushing team in the league, right? But they also had like the worst running backs in the league. They had James Conner, they had Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, who I thought was going to be awesome, didn't do anything. They had a bunch of injuries. They drafted a ton of guys. They moved a couple guys from guard to tackle, switched sides. They're ranked right now as like 29th offensive line, which is terrible. Terrible.
It's terrible.
I think that they're going to wind up like, remember when this happened too? Their defense a couple years ago was like ranked as like terrible, and now they've been number one for like 2 years in a row. I feel like if there's an organization that can do it, that can fix it and fix it quickly, it's Pittsburgh, because what is their claim to fame? It's the running game. It's the beating you down with a running back. Now they finally have Le'Veon Bell back. They haven't had him. You had splashes of it a couple years ago when James Conner was fresh back from whatever illness he had. I remember, glad he recovered. But then he can't stay healthy from that. And they've been struggling because they haven't really had a running back. Now they have a running back. It's going to help the line. They didn't really have Big Ben so much last year. Their offensive line is going to be better with him and or Haskins if need be. Trust that. Love Harris at the end of the first round if you're picking at the end of the first round. Especially if you're in a dynasty league. Maybe a startup dynasty. Like, obviously, he's the number one pick in a dynasty. Like, rookie draft. Of course, number one. Boom, you take him. But I'd take him in the first round in a startup dynasty or even like a startup keeper, because this dude could be the number one pick in fantasy football next year. And all he's got to do is have a year that's a little bit better than what Jonathan Taylor had last year to be number one, because I feel like their line's going to fix itself. So I love Najee Harris. Deontay Johnson, you mentioned him. if you look at anything other than like an eye test, he was incredible last year. Targets, yards, receptions, touchdowns, incredible. But when you look and you just look at some stats or some things like that, he was injured a lot. And that's been his biggest bug. But I still love him. He's my favorite wide receiver on the year. Yeah.
His hands too, man. He
Yeah.
dropped a lot of balls.
Yeah. Well, they all did.
They
right?
all
All
did.
the Steelers were dropping balls.
Did. Oh, yeah.
So it's like, I love Deontay Johnson. I feel like his stock was up last year. I feel like he's going to fall a little bit further back. I feel like you could get some value on him. Chase Claypool, I feel like people are going to take him over Deontay. I don't know if that's what ADP says, Rob, but maybe you could let us know. I'd imagine most people fall in love, recency bias. I would take Deontay before I took Chase Claypool. And James Washington wants out. You mentioned about Juju. I think the only thing that's going to help Juju is Big Ben. I think that's really it. The team fell apart. They went 12-0, right? And they just sort of fell apart. We said we're like, this is like the worst 12-0 team we've ever seen. And like it all just came in. They fell apart. Right. But the defense is going to make it up. The run game is going to help all that. They finally have a running back. Their offensive line is going to be better than the last year. They will not be 29th or last in the league. I love Harris. I love Deontay. I feel like Chase is going to be overdrafted. Juju's fine if you get him as like the fourth one. And what do they got?
So Deontay have as wide receiver 21. Usually about 21 overall pick 55, and they actually have Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster together as 29 and 30, and then 70 and 72 is the average around there for.
So they still got Deontay
they
above.
Do have him higher, yes.
Interesting. Well, that's good.
It is. No, yeah, and that's the way it should be. I mean, again, just from a target share in itself. I mean, there were games that I'm looking at it, and in the first half, he had like 9 targets. It's like, holy moly, they really want to get this guy the ball, but he only had like 4 catches on those 9 targets.
Yeah. He's a target machine. You saw it in the first quarter.
Exactly.
Couple drives. Like,
the first couple drives, just him.
Like, Chase Claypool had a couple as well, but it was Deontay was like the most targeted, I feel.
All right, Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
You said that you feel like Lamb Jack's going to turn the corner here. He didn't have the greatest of the year. I mean, he still had a pretty good year overall. It definitely had more towards the end of the season, started to look more like Lamb Jack. So talk about that. J.K. Dobbins seems to be the guy over there. But Gus Edwards is still there. They still got Justice Hill. Bateman, I think, is my biggest question. They say that they love Sammy Watkins. I know your feelings about Sammy Watkins, but does Sammy Watkins help Bateman and Brown? What's your opinion on that? And is Mark Andrews still a top tight end number, like in the top 5 of tight ends, top 6?
Sir Dive a lot.
Sir Dive.
I swear, Rob, I need to know if you're coming over opening day, first off. And if you are, if they throw a ball, if Lamar throws a ball to Mark Andrews and he dives when he doesn't have to, I'm punching you.
I'm not coming over then.
So Lamar, right?
Yes.
2 years ago, I was like, I'm taking Lamar Jackson. I feel like he's going to have a huge year. And he did. He blew the world up, right?
Yep.
Took him by storm. And then last year, everybody overdrafted Lamar. So everybody feels like Lamar was terrible last year. Like, I wasted a first round or a second round pick. It was like, you were hoping for 2019 last year. It's like, that's not how it goes.
Ebbs and flows.
He's going to bounce back. He's going to be somewhere in between 2019 and 2020. He'll be better than last year, but you're not getting 2019 Lamar.
Yeah.
Probably ever again. Right? Yeah, and like next year, like who knows? We'll see what happens. But like next year could be like the end of it all. You know what I mean? It could be like Lamar's done. Like that's the thing with like a quarterback like this. We've seen it a ton of times. Um, Once the legs go,
Makes it a
like
lot harder, man.
2 years ago, you remember when I drafted, I was like, oh, he's gonna have week one. I think we were playing the Dolphins, right, or something, and he was just anything he threw up was a freaking perfect throw. He was just chucking it like 60 yards, just touchdown. So like Lamar was out of his mind.
Wasn't it the press conference that he was like, "Oh, I'm just a running back"?
Yeah, yeah, and then like last year, his inaccuracies sort of took over, and last year was a weird year. I mean,
Yeah,
come
with the
on,
whole COVID situation,
yeah,
no
it's like
preseason. I mean, it was definitely a different football than we were used to.
no preseason, no fans for
Yeah.
pretty much the whole thing. So it's like you don't throw that out, but you look at it and you say, okay, where are we going from here? And that's pretty much what we're doing tonight. But I think he's going to bounce back. And I think that there's one player on this team, and it's funny, and I wish he was watching, Ryan Matisio. When we did the Dynasty draft, Yahoo, you could do like the video. We were the only two on the video, so we're just like talking about people's. It was just a quick five round thing. Gus Edwards sat. Nobody took him. Nobody took him. And I go, you know what's going to happen? And he looked at me. He's like, what? He's like, week 10 is going to roll around, and like Gus Edwards is going to be having the season of his life. And you and I are going to joke about this moment where we just keep passing on him. And we're like, nobody wants Gus Edwards. Like, why is Gus Edwards ranked this high? Like, what? Nobody wants him. Who's going to take him? We hope this guy takes him. We hope this guy takes him. It's like, and I said to him, I was like, Gus Edwards is going to have a year.
Yeah.
He's going to have a year because we're passing on him. Like this moment, we will remember this moment that we could have had him for like 3 rounds in a row, and we just didn't take him. I feel like Gus Edwards is going to be a ridiculous value this year. I also really think Justice Hill is going to be a good value this year. I feel like they started to use him a little bit more towards the end. I feel like without Ingram there to spell even the little bit of plays that he did, I feel like they're going to use Justice Hill quite a bit more. I think J.K. Dobbins owners are going to be a little upset. I think he's getting a little overdrafted. I like Dobbins, but with Lamar stealing some goal line, Gus Edwards stealing some goal line, Justice Hill stealing some stuff, I feel like Dobbins can be a little overdrafted.
Later, Braden.
Good night, Braden.
Around so long, man.
Yeah, we're almost done.
All right, on to your real favorite team, not the Green Bay Packers, but the Cleveland Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Baker is going to be under a microscope this year because of the season that he had last year. Does he show up because of Beckham having a good year, because of Landry having a good year? I'm seeing a lot of talk about Peoples-Jones looking excellent in camp. And how does the running back situation? They just gave Nick Chubb a lot of money. But you know what? Kareem Hunt gets 40% of the carries. How the hell is that going to work?
Yeah. Well, if you don't know now, you know. Baker is my dark horse MVP this season. I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win MVP. Why? And Braden, it's a good thing you left because I think that the Browns are going to win the division. Not the Steelers, not the Bengals, and not the Ravens. I think it's going to be the Browns. I think it's going to be a little bit of a runaway. I think their defense is ridiculously underrated at this point. I think they have one of the best offensive lines in the game after last year. They got the best 1-2 punch at running back. Odell's going to come back, and Odell, I feel, was a little humbled at how well they did when he was gone. And I think that's going to help. And I think Baker found some confidence in guys like Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins, who he really loves. I feel like Baker's going to be this season's MVP. I think the Browns go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. They were a fumble out of the end zone from beating the Chiefs in the playoffs. Like they
Yeah.
would have won that game if he didn't fumble the ball at the end zone. They would have been down at the 1, or they would have scored a touchdown. So I think the Browns definitely win the AFC North, and I think that they probably go to the Super Bowl. I think Baker wins MVP. He's my dark horse. He is, I want to say 3,000 to 1 or 300 to 1, something like that. I don't know. I put $100 and win $3,000. Something like that. I just, nobody was looking at A-Rod last year as being an MVP. People were way down on A-Rod. I grabbed him in like the 10th round of a draft because of the year he had. Baker had a pretty good year last year. Baker's ascending at this point. Baker's team got better. He's got good tight ends. So I like Baker. Odell, don't overdraft on him because you don't know if he's going to stay healthy. And he's not the Odell. He's not one-handed catch Monday Night Football for the Giants against the Cowboys, Odell. That's all people love him for. That's why he was the best, because of that catch. He hasn't really done much else. He had a couple big runs, busted for touchdowns last year. But he's going to share the rock. Baker learned last year to spread the ball around. And I feel like that's what's going to be the difference with this team. So I like Baker. I like Odell. I like Landry. But I like DPJ, Higgins, the 2 running backs. They're a run-first team. And when Baker has to throw, he's going to spread it around. They got who are their tight ends? They got Hooper, and they got Bryant and Njoku, right? So it's like, right. So they got a ton of weapons, and their defense is really good. Watch out for the Browns. Aside from Chubb and Hunt could be a league winner. I said that last year. He was pretty good. But he could be a league winner because if Chubb goes down, this is Hunt's team. Oh,
yeah. And then Dearness Johnston would be the backup for Hunt from there. All right, let's go on to Cincinnati. Yep. Joey B should be back for week 1. I've been telling a few people, and I probably should stop talking so much, but that's what I love to do is give advice. Joe Burrow is my sneaky quarterback this year. I am drafting him in a lot of mock drafts, usually later in the rounds. I think he's going to come back with not a chip on his shoulder because he was playing well before he got hurt, but I think he's going to come back saying, "Hey guys, don't forget about me. Let me show you why I was the number 1 pick. Now you gave me my boy Chase as well. Let me show you what we can do. I know you chose the Browns to win this division. I agree with you. I think the Browns, but I honestly think that since they're not going to be last in this division either. If Joe Mixon can actually stay healthy and stay on the field, you had mentioned Chris Evans. I mean, they have T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd had a season last year. I mean, they really have a good team and a good offense, and their defense is getting better. They're not going to be last in this division, in my opinion.
I think it'll be close. I think they will be last, but they won't be a laughing stock.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a very competitive division. I think Cleveland's going to be the best, as I just said, but I do think Pittsburgh will be okay, and I think they'll just edge out Cincy. I see Baltimore being second in the division. And I said I think Harris before, but what I meant to say was Chase when I was talking about the rookie wide receivers. But yeah, they got a bunch of wide receivers. Talked about Mixon earlier. Chris Evans is a name. If you don't know him, he's basically going to be the one replacing Giovanni Bernard. So Chris Evans is a guy that you could probably grab in the last round of the draft, especially if you get Joe Mixon, you want Chris Evans, rookie running back, Giovanni Bernard's replacement. He's pretty good. This team will be quick with them because you nailed everything. Here's your sleeper, probably of the year. Thaddeus Moss.
Oh,
Where did he play college? LSU. Who was his quarterback? Joe Burrow. Come on. Thaddeus Moss got cut by Washington. What the heck were they doing? They love Logan Thomas. Well, guess what? He's been reunited with Joe Burrow. The only person in front of him is Drew Sample. Get the F out of town. Thaddeus.
But
Oh, come on, CJ Uzoma. Get out of my face.
yeah.
Thaddeus Moss, if he makes this team, which he should, Joe Burrow will look to him early and often. Trust me on that.
All right. I'm glad you said it, because if you weren't going to say it, that was going to be probably one of my sleepers as well for tight end. So definitely that might be my combo that I go to. Tight end, late action.
I like it.
All right, let's go into the AFC West. I have to start going soon here, but Kansas
City. I'm trying.
I know. It's just so much to talk about, and it's just so much fun.
Yes.
I'll be up at 4:30 in the morning tomorrow, but I do this for all of you. I love you all.
That's it.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
They have everybody pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same, except for this. I was having this conversation, I think it was with Spencer. Travis Kelce, obvious 1, 2, or 3, wherever you want to place him. But they drafted Noah Gray. Noah Gray's an amazing tight end. Noah Gray is being tutored by Travis Kelce. Noah Gray is picking up the playbook. Noah Gray is getting nothing but glowing reports. Noah Gray is going to split time. They're probably going to run 2 tight end sets. Travis Kelce is not going to be the only man in town. And we've seen glimpses before with the Chiefs. I think it was Demetrius Harris was one of the dudes a couple years ago, if not last year. Every once in a while would get on the field with Kelce and would splash, but he was not the type of player Noah Gray is. If you don't know Noah Gray, look him up. He's somebody who could take away from your too soon of a pick with Travis Kelce. I know the top 3, 4, 5 tight ends, everybody wants to get one of them. But just be careful, because usually 1 or 2 of them don't make it even into the top 10. And this is Kelce. I don't think he's not going to be productive, but now they're going to run 2 tight end sets. Noah Gray looks really good. Watch some college tape. That's what I did as soon as I heard his name. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I like him. Who's going to be their 3rd wide receiver? Is it going to be Doris Fountain, the guy that got expelled from the Colts? They're saying he looks okay. Or is it going to be D-Rob? Or is it going to be Pringle?
Don't they have Antonio Callaway too?
Was it the Chiefs that he went to?
Yeah, I remember. Antonio Callaway was the kid on the what's it called, right?
Browns.
Yeah. He had some splashes too, man. That wouldn't surprise me. But again, that 3rd receiver I think is going to be something to pay attention to in the preseason, to see who's going to be that on the field, on the snaps, especially that 3rd game. Pay attention to that, because that could be something. You want Kansas City Chiefs on your team. I mean, Mahomes spreads the ball around. So
we'll end with them. But if you spend an early pick on Travis Kelce, you have to get Noah Gray late. You have to. Because if Kelce gets hurt, Noah Gray becomes Kelce.
10-4, Captain. Las Vegas Raiders. So you picked up somebody the other day that they say is another version of T.O. possibly, in Brian Edwards. I had him on my team last year in Dynasty for probably like 11 weeks.
He never played. He was hurt all year. He was hurt.
So I dropped him. But that kid, I watched. What do you suggest? You watch video on somebody to see. He is amazing. Yeah. He was amazing in college too. But anyway, do we see him being the outside guy with Ruggs on the other side? Does that make John Brown, now who's on this team, very valuable in that slot position, or Hunter Renfrow? Josh Jacobs, he started to come down at the end of last year. They picked up Kenyon Drake, though. Drake, we know his injury history and so on. But could that be the relief that Josh Jacobs needs to be able to stay healthy and for this Las Vegas Raiders team to actually move forward the way they want to? And is Darren Waller a better value than a George Kittle or a Travis Kelce?
I'm not quite sure as far as the tight end question. Maybe because you're going to get him 3rd, so you're going to get him a little later, so maybe that makes him a little better value. As far as Josh Jacobs goes, I feel like Josh Jacobs is a good value now because people are recency bias, didn't end too strong. They signed Kenyon Drake. Josh Jacobs must suck, right? Not so fast, right? Who's the coach that said that? Not so fast. I don't remember. Herm Edwards? I don't remember. But anyways, not so fast. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's getting late. But I love Josh Jacobs. I don't. I think that Drake helps him more than hurts him. I honestly do. Where you can get Josh Jacobs now compared to last year is probably 2 or 3 rounds later.
That's big.
I would say. And the wide receivers, yeah, Brian Edwards. Going into last season, before he got hurt in the preseason, I believe it was, he was going to be a stud. He was going to be their number one. He was the guy.
Yeah.
He got hurt, never played. And now he's back, he's healthy, and they're saying, this dude's a stud. This guy's going to be our number one. This guy's like,
I held on to him.
they're saying this guy, John Gruden said he reminds me of Randy Moss, right?
Yeah.
So Brian Edwards, he was a big name last year, got hurt, kapoots, right? Post-hype sleeper type. This is going to be his real first rookie season. Last year would have been his first. He's definitely, and I actually wrote down a note here. Raiders, wide receivers, Arrow, no one except Edwards. like Ruggs, people like Ruggs, sure, but I feel like he's that typical Raiders one-trick pony, like Johnny Lee Higgins, or who's the other guy they had a few years ago, where it's just like fly downfield, I'm going to throw you the ball. I remember I had to pick up Ruggs. What was it?
Tyrell Williams.
No, it wasn't him. It was before Ruggs, but after Johnny Lee Higgins. I feel like they always draft this one guy that's just like, all I can do is run a straight line down the sideline, just loft the ball up, I'll catch it. I remember last year I had to pick up Henry Ruggs just to fill in, and I was like, all I need is one catch. And that's all he got was one catch, but it was like 75-yard bomb into the end zone. And he outran everybody and just caught it. And he was just all alone in the end zone. Like, oh. And like, I feel like that's what he is. He's never going to be going over the middle. That's going to be the Waller. That's going to be the Edwards. Renfro doesn't get enough burn. So it's like, I'd go after Edwards. You could probably get him around 10, but that stock's it's just going to keep going up.
Yeah, and Josh Jacobs they have listed as the running back 19. He's going after Sanders and Dobbins.
I think I would take him before Miles Sanders.
Yeah, they have him in wedge between Sanders and Chris Carson. So
definitely before Carson.
All right, next one here. The Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay.
Do we see Justin Herbert being that same Justin Herbert of last year? We talk about ebbs and flows and so on and so forth. He had an amazing rookie season last year. Does he have that same rookie season? I'm sorry, the same season this year as he did last year? His team is pretty much the same. Eckler, Kelly, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. They picked up Jared Cook, which even though he's old, he still produces. Is that better than Hunter Henry? Because Henry wasn't on the field as much. I don't know. I really don't know what to think about this Chargers team. It's almost like the Giants to me. Are they going to be good enough to be able to be something considered to have fantasy value and so on and so forth?
When I see and hear things like what you just said in like the card community, which we always talk about, like Justin Herbert, it's like he's like the best ever. And like, but I go into my recollection, and please, if anybody's still watching, which I don't even know if you are anymore at this point, we've been on here forever. But
we got a couple people here and there.
But like his year was good. He broke the rookie records, but was he like amazing? Was he really amazing?
In my opinion, he wasn't, to be honest. I honestly, he got a lot of the hype because he was doing things. He did have some really good games, but they look at what their record was.
Yeah. I feel like his first couple games were like really amazing, like he was. and then like he kind of had a little bit of hiccup. If my memory serving me correctly, I mean I'm getting old. Check it, but like I feel like he wasn't like amazing. You know what I mean? He wasn't Mahomes. He wasn't A-Rod. He wasn't even Brady, who really wasn't even that amazing, as far as I'm concerned. Regardless, he's got Keenan Allen, who's a stud. He's been able to stay healthy. If that continues, that's a gold mine where you can grab him, which is probably like the third round.
Yeah.
Gold mine. I'm not buying the Mike Williams hype. I didn't buy it last year, and I'm glad. I bought it 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. His rookie year, the year after. Excuse me. He just can't stay healthy. He's just not good enough. He's out there pumping his own chest, being like, hey, if you draft me, you're going to win the fantasy. You know, and everything you're seeing is Mike Williams trying to get people to draft him in fantasy, saying, if you don't, you're going to be sorry, yada, yada. I'm not buying it. They have too many little extra guys that came out of nowhere last year. One of them is a tight end, Parnham. Remember him? Donald Parnham, I believe was his name.
I don't, to be honest with you.
He caught a couple touchdowns here and there.
Donald Parham Jr. Yes.
I believe this dude is 6'9".
That sounds right. He was a big boy.
6'9". Can you look that up? I believe he's 6'9". They're saying that he shed some fat, added some muscle, that he's been running incredible routes and been studying the playbook like an animal. Because
6'8".
He doesn't want to just go in when they're at the goal line. Can you imagine somebody that's basically 6'9" on a football field going over the middle, just running people over? Jared Cook, I'm buying into a little bit of Jared Cook for captain consistency to help Justin Herbert. I am, because he's old. He's a vet. He still does it. When he's healthy, he was helping the Saints last year. He was still doing his thing. But I'm thinking that him being there is going to help this Parnham dude. This guy could be somebody that if he's really studying the game and getting himself in football shape like they're saying, 6'9", monster of a tight end. Are you kidding me? He's somebody who I'm keeping my eye on. And somebody I'm drafting. And I absolutely love this pick. And I picked him up in Dynasty. I drafted him in both of my Dynasty leagues. That's Larry Roundtree. Eckler can't stay healthy. Let's just face the music here. Justin Jackson is not good. My boy Joshua Kelly didn't do much last year. We'll see if he could turn it around this year. Larry Roundtree, they drafted. I believe he's like the record holder of like D2, I want to say, or something like that. He's like, I don't know. He's got ridiculous college accolades. Watch some of his tape. Looks pretty good. A little bit bigger than like an Eckler. He's somebody that if you're drafting Eckler, if you're one of the Eckler lovers, you know you need a backup plan. Larry Roundtree is that guy. And it's Roun, no D, Tree. Larry Roundtree, rookie. I think he's going to be their number 2, the third, RT3.
Ooh.
Or no,
LR3.
LR3. RT3 sounds so much cooler. But we could call him that because it's Roundtree. So we can RT3.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's how I'm going to roll with. RT3. I like him. I think if you're drafting Eckler, you have to get him. Broncos.
Last but not least, the Denver Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the quarterback? Is it going to be Teddy? Is it going to be Drew Lock? Melvin Gordon's there on the downturn. They drafted Javonte Williams. I like Williams, man. Another person that's still on that team is Royce Freeman. We've seen him touch the ball a few times last year, too. They're saying Cortland Sutton is not playing up to his ability. They feel like the ACL is holding him back. It seems more mental than actual physical. Does that boost up now Judy and Tim Patrick more? Does that give Hamler an opportunity? They still have Hamilton. I mean, they have a bunch. What I really want to see, though, from this team is what Noah Fant can do. I think he came on a little last year. He got hurt. Albie O came in and showed a little bit, and then Font came back and he was like, "Nah, this is my spot. Like, no one's taking my spot." I think if it's Teddy Bridgewater, I think Noah Font is better. Even though he had the relationship with Drew Lock, I think Teddy will utilize his legs more to get Noah Font open. If it's the opposite, I think you get the same thing what you got from Drew Lock and Noah Font last year. What do you think?
I think that if it's Drew Lock, this team is better.
Okay.
I know you like Teddy.
I do.
I feel like Teddy was one of the main reasons that the Panthers did not do very well last year. Now, granted, they didn't have Chris McCaffrey. But I feel like Teddy had, I'm going to just chuck the ball at Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, and let them do something with it because I can't do much else. Ian Thomas didn't help, but he certainly didn't help Ian Thomas either.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does he still wear the two gloves?
I think he does. That's
Remember
Teddy, that was interesting. Teddy Two Gloves.
Teddy Two Gloves. You might just let's take him off, Teddy. I think if it's Drew Lock, they're better off. I like Cortland Sutton, especially where you could grab him this year. We'll see if he can get over the mental. Physical seems to be good from what I hear. So let's see. Melvin Gordon, you nailed it. I don't want anything to do with him. Williams, I like it. Not touching anybody else there. And I have a nice sleeper on this team.
Go for it.
I think it's Hamler.
Really? KJ? You did not like KJ Hamler last year.
I did not like him last year, but I just have this feeling that KJ Hamler this year with Sutton and Judy, I feel like those will be the three. Tim Patrick, maybe the fourth one once Hamler surpasses him. I feel like he's going to surprise a lot of people this year. I feel like it's going to be a little bit of a trend, and it's not a huge one, but at least with two of them. I really love Antonio Gandy Golden, which I mentioned earlier, and I really am starting to like KJ Hamler. And I think those two guys are going to sort of set the tone for these second-year players that never really got off the ground last year.
Edwards is on that list too, right?
And Edwards, yeah. So I feel like they're going to set the tone of the guys that it's like last year, and you could even put Jalen Reagor on this list if he could stay healthy. I feel like last year they never really got going. I feel like this year you're going to see a big jump out of these guys. Remember, I mentioned this last year as well. In the very beginning, 1 year ago, I said the rookies this year, you got to pump your brakes a little bit with them. It might take them some time. Some of them may never show up because they got no preseason. They're hopping right into the season.
Yep.
So it did take some time. I was dead on with the running backs especially and the wide receivers because, boom, out of nowhere, Justin Jefferson, boom, Chase Claypool, right? They all started hitting right around week 5, 6.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 exploding. And then everybody loved them. CeeDee Lamb, etc. But I feel like these ancillary year 2 guys, the KJ Hamlers, the Antonio Gandy Golden, Jalen Reagors, I think you're going to see Brian Edwards is finally going to get a chance to play a bump in them this year. A full offseason, a full preseason, a full training camp, knowing the playbook, just that much more wealth to their game. And I think you're going to see it. So a lot of forgotten names are going to surface, especially early on.
I like it, man. I wrote some good things down. Okay. I'm going to steal all your players, just to give you a heads up. And every single. So,
except for answers by guess, and everybody else is just going to steal them. Yeah. That's okay. So that draft is
September 5th.
The day before Labor Day. Sunday.
Correct. Sunday, September 5th.
Yeah. So I we might be live, right, doing the draft because that's what people wanted to see.
Yep.
So that would be the next time you'd see us, and after that would be the show before opening night.
Yeah, which would be the Tuesday or Wednesday show we'll probably do, I would assume, since it's Thursday night football.
Yeah.
There's nobody picking up anybody as far as waivers or anything
No.
like that. So,
Nope.
All right, guys, answers by guests. This is the preseason show. It was 2 hours and 45 minutes of fantastic news. I'm going to share, and please make sure that you guys share, like, follow the page, follow the group. We definitely appreciate all of you, and we look forward to an absolutely wonderful season.
Yes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Best of luck.
All right, guys. Peace.